My delusional stepdad ruins my $900 prom dress out of spite. Now we're taking him to court for the damage, and the drama unfolds. My delusional stepdad deliberately destroyed my $900 prom dress because I refused to give his golden child son money for his prom outfit. He got what was coming to him. I've never posted here before, but I really need advice because I'm so upset and have no idea what to do. I'm only 17 and not sure if there's any legal action I can take. For some context, I live with my biological mom and her husband since my parents separated and were never married. I originally lived with my dad from the age of 2. He won custody in the custody battle, but he later lost custody after a severe work accident left him paralyzed, making it impossible for him to take care of me. I still see him every weekend and spend the entire summer with him. When I was 10, I moved in with my mom, her husband, and their 2 sons, one stepbrother and one half-brother. Ever since then, my stepdad has made it clear, both directly and indirectly, that I've disrupted their lives by re-entering my mother's life because I'm just another person they have to take care of. I've been working since 10th grade and have been saving up for my senior year in college since last year with the money from my job. My mom and her husband made it clear that my mom would only help with the basics like my graduation cap and gown, senior dues, and senior class photo. Everything else, like prom, I'd have to pay for myself. I earn about $400 every 2 weeks from my job, which I've been saving entirely. And I make extra money by doing nails, around $100 a week plus tips, which I use for spending money. Since it's my senior year and the last year of high school, I wanted to go all out for prom, so I set an $800 budget for my prom dress. My prom is in April, and I wanted to get my dress early since the really cute ones sell out fast. So, I went prom dress shopping in December and found a gorgeous dress that cost $890. It's dark green with a long train, rhinestones embedded into it, and glitter throughout the fabric. When I first showed my mom and stepdad the dress, they asked how much it was. My mom said she wouldn't pay for a dress that expensive, but I told them it was fine because I had more than enough money saved up to buy it and would still have plenty left, $23,000 to be exact, though only my mom knows that. My mom said I could get the dress and that it was very pretty. However, my stepdad said it was irresponsible and a waste of money, and that I should use it for better things like helping out the family and paying some bills, suggesting I get a cheaper dress for no more than $300. Mind you, both his sons own PS5s and multiple pairs of $200 plus shoes. Long story short, my mom disagreed with him, and I ended up getting the dress. She even contributed $150 toward it. However, ever since then, my stepdad constantly brings up that I should help pay for things around the house since I have so much money to throw away. But my mom always shuts him down, saying that I work hard for my money and that I already help out by paying for Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu bills, while my 18-year-old stepbrother doesn't pay for anything. Last Saturday, we had a huge argument because my stepdad suggested that I should help my stepbrother pay for his prom, to which I firmly said, no. He later called me selfish and said it wasn't fair that I get an expensive outfit while his son doesn't. I guess I responded with some snark, saying, that's not my child or my problem. He then tried to complain to my mom, who sided with me, saying that if anything, he should pay for his own son's prom. Well, today, I woke up from a nap and noticed my prom dress was missing from my closet. It was right at the front, so I immediately noticed it was gone. I asked my stepdad if he'd seen it since my mom was at work, and he told me with a condescending smile that he was washing it. I immediately ran downstairs and saw my dress being washed on the heavy-duty cycle. I canceled it right away, but the damage was done. Most of the rhinestones had fallen off, the glitter had washed out, and the entire dress was mangled. I took one look at it, then threw it in a trash bag and left for my friend's house, taking the dress with me. I texted my mom and sent her pictures, but I'm currently at my friend's house, lying on her bed. Her parents hung the dress outside to air dry so that my stepdad can't blame them if it was dried in the dryer. I know he did this to spite me because he never washes clothes, cooks, or does anything around the house since he considers himself the man of the house, so there was no reason for him to be washing my dress, even if it needed washing. Is there anything I can do? I realize neither of them can replace it, considering their difficult financial situation. I'll keep you all posted when mom gets home. So far my stepdad has called twice, but I haven't picked up, and my mom's at work and unable to take calls. Edit. I'm not sure how to add updates, so I'll just include an edit. My mom and I just spoke on the phone, and she's furious and on her way home. My friend, her dad, and I are heading to my house now, and my mom said she was going to call the cops as soon as she finished talking to me, so they might be there by the time I arrive. We've taken pictures, and my uncle, who is my mom's brother, will be over by 8 because I contacted him while he was at work. I've been considering your suggestions about withdrawing my money from my account, and I discussed it with my dad, who told me I could stay with him. Edit/update 2. When I got home, my friend stayed in the car while her dad walked me in, and my stepdad was already gone. However, the police were at the house. As of now, the police said they couldn't really arrest him because it's not like he technically stole anything. It's hard to explain, but basically, they said that because he washed the dress and didn't keep it, it's not considered theft. They suggested I could get a confession and have him pay or take him to small claims court. Also, the dress is non-refundable if damaged, so I can't return it or anything. While explaining everything to my mom, I got flustered and started crying. And she hugged me as I cried and told me that he's going to pay for this. This financial issue has been an ongoing argument, and I think he just pushed her too far this time because she's really angry. I also talked to my uncle, and he's off work and on his way over. Apparently, my uncle and stepdad have a rocky history since my stepdad has mouthed off to him in the past. When I explained what happened, my uncle reassured me that everything would be okay, and if needed, he would buy back the dress before it sells out, so I'll still have it for prom. He does expect my stepdad to pay me back one way or another, so it looks like I'll probably end up with my dress for free. Maybe that's a small victory. I'll likely update more later tonight, but things seem to be heading in the right direction. Edit. To clear up any confusion, I pay for the streaming service bills because I really want to watch the shows on those platforms, and my mom works hard but doesn't earn enough to afford those services on top of everything else. So I offered to pay for them so we could have them. She's not the kind of mother who would pick her husband over me, and she always defends me. My stepdad has never pulled a stunt like this before. He just tries to convince her to control my money and savings, but she's never touched my savings. I feel like that's why they always clash, because he has this mindset that, we have all these financial troubles, and your daughter could solve them with her savings, and you have access to them. My uncle came over, and he and my mom had a bit of an argument because he blamed her for enabling my stepdad's behavior by not leaving him, which he thinks is why my stepdad felt comfortable doing what he did. She argued back, saying she's always defended me against him and has never taken any of my money. Which is true. We all talked about it for a while, and she revealed that they actually had an argument last night about paying off a car payment. She mentioned how all these bills are wearing her down, and he responded by saying it wouldn't be such a burden if she used my savings and didn't let me spend it on foolishness. She got angry and defensive because he keeps bringing it up. He also pointed out that the $900 I spent on my dress could have covered the car payment for the next 2 months. By the way, he only knows about my savings because he knows how much I get paid and that I've been saving all of it, so we think that's what triggered him to throw my dress in the washer. My mom and stepdad have been texting back and forth, and he admitted that he washed the dress to teach me a lesson about not spending so much money on something that can be ruined so easily. But he deliberately set the washer to heavy duty, so it's clear he intended to destroy it. My uncle has offered to replace the dress, so I don't need to worry about not having my special dress. We called the boutique and explained everything, and they said they could order another dress, though it won't arrive until February 23rd, which is fine. My mom sent my stepdad a long, threatening message basically calling him out. She's really heated right now, so I'm going to try to ask for a screenshot later. She and my dad also talked and decided it would be best if I got my own bank account so that my stepdad can't use the excuse that she has access to my account, which is also great. My mom and I had a discussion about what's going to happen next, and she said she's not sure yet because it's all a bit overwhelming for her. She's seriously considering leaving him, but I guess she doesn't want to talk about that just yet. My stepdad is currently staying at a friend's house. I'll keep updating, and I might have another one tomorrow. My friend's parents are going to keep the dress at their house, and I'll pick it up tomorrow to have as proof. My uncle has wired me $1,000 for my prom dress, and I'm planning to use the money to replace the dress and buy new shoes. He's quite well off, which is one of the reasons I reached out to him in the first place. I'm going to call the boutique and see if they can reorder the dress, and I'll just pick it up sometime in February. However, we still want my stepdad to pay in some way, and we're working on that. My uncle has also called my other uncles and aunts, with my permission, to vent about the situation, so now most of my mom's side of the family, who all live in Georgia, are aware of what happened. I woke up to a flood of texts expressing sympathy and even some offers of money for prom, which have added up to about $300. So that's a positive outcome. My mom also contacted my step-in-laws, who then spread the news, complete with pictures, and I guess most of them are shocked, except for his mother, who is still buying his excuse that it's just a dress and it was an accident, despite the evidence. I also got a call from my stepdad's sister, who expressed sympathy, and through our conversations, I learned that my stepdad has been asking a lot of his family for financial help because, for some reason, He's bought so many things on credit that he can't keep up with the payments. My mom called my stepdad for answers, which we recorded, and he's basically trying to blame her, saying that if she hadn't pissed him off last night, he wouldn't have done it. He claimed he was trying to teach me a lesson about being responsible with money and that he had planned to lecture me afterward. My mom has now broken up with him because he blamed her for caring more about me than him, which is bizarre. This led to an argument where my mom said, "You think I care about her more than you? Well, you're about to see just how much I do." Their relationship had already been rocky because he can't manage money, and this was the final straw for her. So a lot has happened. First off, we've placed an order for my dress and it's being shipped now. It should arrive at the boutique by February 23rd, so that's sorted. My stepdad and mom are officially broken up, but my mom isn't sure yet if she'll proceed with the divorce because everything is still so fresh, and lawyers are expensive, and she can't afford it right now. They also have a prenup, so they don't share any assets, and the house is my mom's. It was her dad's house that she inherited. She had a different dad from her siblings, who all share the same father. My stepdad came back with his brother after a while and tried to make up for everything by buying me a new dress from Macy's that's similar in color and length to the original, but it's very tacky and ugly and looks nothing like the dress I originally had. He then tried to apologize, saying it wasn't his intention to ruin the dress and that he was just going to wash it to make a point, like, "See, this is why you don't buy things like this." And then he would have bought me another dress. But that explanation makes no sense at all. My uncle also came back to the house after I texted him that my stepdad had returned. My uncle was at the store when he got my message, and when he arrived, they got into a huge argument. My uncle demanded to know why my stepdad destroyed the dress, but my stepdad said he wasn't going to let anyone walk into his house and start making demands. My uncle called him a name, and my stepdad told him to say it again. So he did, and they ended up fighting. My stepdad lost the fight and then threatened to call the cops, but we reminded him that he swung first. After that, he went on a rant, cussed us out, and left, taking the dress with him. We're actually planning to follow your advice and take him to small claims court, considering the evidence and the damage. Hopefully, we'll come out on top. Right now, my stepdad is staying at his parents' house. For those curious about my brothers, here's an update. My 15-year-old half-brother was at his girlfriend's house since Friday, so he missed all the drama, but he reached out to me today. I love him so much. My 18-year-old stepbrother, on the other hand, has basically taken his dad's side, so there's not much more to say about that. Also, for those who suggested changing the streaming passwords, I've done that, and my mom and I are going to set up a new bank account for me later today. Thanks so much for all the support. I'll keep you updated as we make plans and hopefully get a favorable verdict. I lied about my baby daddy. Now he knows I'm pregnant and wants answers. Should I reveal the truth or continue my plan to raise the baby alone? I, 26F, grew up in the Midwest but went to college in California. There I met and dated Jeff, 26M, for our final 2 years of undergraduate. After graduation I stayed in California to get my master's degree while Jeff entered the workforce. We were happy together and we planned to get married after I got my master's. After I finished my schooling, Jeff got cold feet about getting married and eventually becoming a father. Abandonment issues from his bio dad leaving. So he broke up with me. Heartbroken feels like it would barely scratch the surface on how I felt. I had a great job in California, so I stayed in hopes that Jeff would come to his senses and we'd get back together. We never did. He met Grace, 25F, and started dating her about 5 months after we broke up. I started planning on moving back to my home state once I realized it was actually over. Then he and Grace broke up at the beginning of this year. Jeff and I ended up sleeping together a few times while they were broken up. It was a very public breakup, no cheating involved. About a week after the last time we had sex, he told me that he and Grace were getting back together. He said he couldn't remain friends with me because he still had feelings for me and he had to let them fade to be fair to Grace. His final words to me were to not call him unless I was literally dying and just wanting to say goodbye. I left California behind 3 weeks later. 2 weeks after I had returned home I found out that I was pregnant. It's Jeff's. I wasn't going to be that girl that uses a pregnancy to get a man back, so I deleted all my social media accounts and made new ones that don't have my name attached to them. The only Cali people I added were trusted friends who I knew either had no connection to Jeff or who were loyal to me and wouldn't tell him my new accounts. Early in my pregnancy I made the mistake of checking out Jeff and Grace's respective profiles and saw that they refer to each other as LOML, and Jeff even had a picture of them captioned saying he was gonna marry that girl. That broke me all over again, and I have since blocked them both and decided I had to move on with my life. I'm now 6.5 months pregnant. Since moving back, I have bought my own house in my home state and have been busy building a nursery for my baby. I already love this little baby in my belly, and I feel 100% confident that I can raise and provide for him on my own with minor help from my family. One of my best friends back in California was having an engagement party. I won't be able to attend the wedding as I'll be busy with a newborn when it happens, so I decided to fly out to see my friends and offer my congratulations to the couple before my life becomes baby-centric. I got into town on Thursday, and honestly had a blast seeing all my friends yesterday, even though it's only been about 6 months since I last saw them. They were all respectful of my wishes not to take pictures of me below the chest. They did post some pictures of me online, but from the angles it just looks like I gained some weight in my face. Nothing that would give away my pregnancy. It's a couple days before my flight back home, and the friend that I'm staying with suggested we go to the store because she wanted to get a scrapbook for our engaged friend. So we went to the store, and as we were getting ready to leave, I saw Jeff's cousin Tanya, 22-ish, walk in. I talked to her several times at Jeff's family gatherings over the years, but we never really got along. She was always a bit too gossipy for me to like her. So of course she was the last person I wanted to see. The first thing she did was loudly announce that I was pregnant, as if everyone in the store couldn't tell just by looking at me. Then she starts grilling me, asking if Jeff knows. I said no, and that he doesn't need to know as it's not his. That was a lie, obviously, but I didn't want to open a can of worms. Tanya then tells me with how big my belly is that I'm far along and asks how I could move on so quickly. I told her that Jeff and I broke up a long time ago. She responded saying that everyone knows we were still hooking up at the beginning of this year. I did not know that was common knowledge. I figured Jeff would have kept his mouth shut about that. Anyway, I lied and told her that I already had a new boyfriend and that I was 5 months pregnant. She seemed to accept that and awkwardly congratulated me. My friend and I paid for her stuff and left immediately after that. I prayed that would be the end of it. Like I said, Tanya is a gossip, so of course she went and ran her mouth about seeing me pregnant just a few hours later. Now a bunch of my friends have messaged me saying that Jeff is blowing up their inboxes trying to reach me. None of them have told him my new number or social media, so he has no way of reaching me himself. My flight back home isn't for another 2 days and I'm freaking out. Some of my friends are saying that I should just tell him the truth now that he knows I'm pregnant. I still say I can get by pretending it's someone else's and that I'm not far enough along for it to be his. I honestly just want to ignore him and go back home. However, I'm having some doubts that that's the right choice and there isn't a consensus on what to do, so I'm turning to internet strangers. TLDR. I got pregnant by my ex. Moved away, planning to raise the child myself. His cousin saw me and told him I'm pregnant. Now he's trying to get a hold of me and I just want to go home and ignore him. Should I tell him the truth or just go home? Update 1. Hi everyone. So the consensus on my post was to tell Jeff about the baby being his. Even from just the first few comments that seemed clear. We did end up meeting up. It wasn't particularly interesting or dramatic, but if anyone cares, here's what happened. He got a hold of the friend I was staying with on Instagram. I wanted to just talk to him on the phone, but he insisted we talk in person ASAP. In retrospect, I should have just waited until the next day, but I kind of just wanted to get it over with, and it seemed like he did too. TBH, I thought he was going to tell me that he wanted nothing to do with the kid, because I didn't see any other reason why he wanted to talk in person right that second. Keep in mind it was almost 10 at night at the time. So my friend and I went to his parents' house where he was waiting. His parents always treated me like family, so I guess I felt comfortable being there, even though we probably should have met at a neutral location. When we got there, Jeff's mom answered the door. She hugged me and I could tell she wanted to touch my stomach, but she restrained herself and didn't even ask. Thankfully. I always liked her. We made awkward small talk as she led me to the living room. It was clear that they had just had a party, as it was still messy with a bunch of drinking cups lying around and confetti on the floor. On the couch was Jeff and Grace holding each other's hands. I was surprised that I honestly felt nothing for him at first. His stepdad offered me a seat, but I chose to stand. I wasn't planning on being there long anyway. Jeff started off saying that I might be able to fool Tanya, but he knows there's no way I would have ever met a new guy and gotten pregnant that fast. So he asked why I didn't tell him. I told him the truth, that the last time we spoke he told me not to contact him unless I was literally dying. And I'm not dying. He told me that he was trying to be respectful to Grace and that obviously this would have been an exception. Grace chimed in to tell me that I ruined her proposal. I found out later, third-hand info, but knowing Tanya I believe it, that the party at his parents' house was for him to propose to Grace in front of all their friends and families. Tanya waited until after the proposal, and when people were giving speeches, she told Jeff she was so glad he got away from me and wasn't gonna be stuck raising my baby. Then all hell broke loose at the party apparently. I had no idea that happened at the time, or I honestly would not have went to see him at all. But hearing that he proposed was when it hurt. He broke up with me cause he was scared of marriage and kids, but he dated her not even half as long as we did and she got a ring. I put on a brave face. Or at least I think I did. And acted like it didn't bother me, but it absolutely did. His mom told Grace that it's not my fault and now wasn't the time for that. Then Jeff told me that, obviously I can't move now. I told him that I already did, and I was only in California for the weekend. He countered saying that I have to move back. I told him no, I'm not doing that. He said, well, I can't just leave. At that point I got frustrated and told him that I left months ago. My job is in my home state. I bought a house. All my doctor's appointments have been there. I established residency there a long time ago. California isn't my home anymore and hasn't been for half a year now. So then he got frustrated and got up to approach me asking if he's just supposed to send a paycheck once a month and saying this wasn't how it was supposed to happen. I don't really know what he meant by that second part cause he just found out I was pregnant a few hours before. But I assumed he was taking about his life plans? I forced myself to calm down and try to be empathetic. I told him that if he was worried about this screwing up his plans for the future, that he had nothing to worry about. I don't want or need anything from him. I've planned everything out from finances to childcare when I return to work to even setting up my baby's college fund. It's all taken care of already. He didn't really say anything. I didn't know if he was thinking or just relieved that I had it all handled. I told him he can still get married to Grace and have his own family someday. I promised I wouldn't bother or blame him for anything. My baby will be loved and cared for. Jeff got teary-eyed and told me that I know how he feels about this. He was referring to when he broke up with me and said that he didn't want to be a dad because he didn't think he'd be a good one. He also has abandonment issues from his bio dad walking out on him, his siblings, and his mom when he was 6. I told Jeff that he's not him. His bio dad. That he's better than him and always will be. His mom started crying at this point, I guess from seeing how his dad's abandonment still affects him to this day. I promised Jeff that I wouldn't let my baby think that Jeff was a deadbeat. I'd be honest that we just weren't meant to be together, and we live thousands of miles apart. He told me that he can't just not be in his kid's life and that I don't understand what it could do to them. He asked if we could please just figure something out together. I asked him what he realistically expected would be a solution. Because I'm not moving back to California, and I highly doubt he and Grace wanted to pack their bags and move that far away from their own families and friends. I said, I'm not going to be sending my kid on a plane every few months either because that's too much. Jeff didn't say anything to that, so I told him maybe that could be an option when he's older and has more independence, but right now it's not happening. Jeff's eyes lit up and he asked, "It's a boy?" I'd been careful not to reveal the gender up until then, but I messed up there. I nodded and he nervously asked if he could feel the baby. Before I could even respond, Grace let out this loud wail and stormed off to the kitchen. Jeff apologized to me and then went to go comfort her. His mom excused herself as well as she was still crying. So she left and her husband followed her. That left me and my friend awkwardly standing alone in the living room. All we hear is his mom sniffling in the hallway and Grace sobbing while talking to Jeff in the kitchen. It was so incredibly uncomfortable. And I know many will hate me for this, but I just felt overwhelmed by the whole thing. Maybe it makes me pathetic, but having to stand in the room where a party was just held to celebrate Jeff proposing to another woman hurts so damn bad. So I left. I told my friend let's get the hell out of here and we quietly walked out. We ended up staying in a hotel and I was able to get an earlier flight home on Sunday. Now I'm back home and putting my focus back on the nursery. I told my friends that I had talked to Jeff and I apologized if he still tried to reach me through them. I advised them to block him if it's too much. I know this isn't the end of things. I'm planning on reaching out to him again eventually. Even if he broke my heart, I still care about him, and I won't deny him a relationship with his kid if that's what he really wants. I have no idea how it's gonna work and I'm only allowed to update once, so I apologize that I won't be able to tell anyone who cares how it all turns out. Thank you for the advice on my last post. Even though everyone was downvoting me and the post itself, it was nice to get opinions without bias. Update 2. First, I've seen a lot of comments saying that Jeff proposed to Grace within a few months after they started dating. That's not true. Aside from the 1-month breakup where Jeff and I conceived the baby, they were together roughly a year and a half before the engagement, assuming they had no more breakups after. IDK their full history, nor do I care to. Second, I feel like people were being a bit harsh on Jeff. I can honestly say he is not an abusive or controlling person. The man never so much as raised his voice at me in the 4 years we dated. He was a bit overbearing by demanding that I had to stay in California because that's where he is, but he just found out about the baby and was panicking that I'd disappear and he wouldn't be able to contact me. Which, to be fair, that's exactly what I did, so I get it. I had a million thoughts, some wildly ridiculous when I think about it now, running through my own head when I found out too. Third, he wasn't juggling Grace and I at the same time like people think. She broke up with him. They both thought for good at the time. He and I started having sex again, but it wasn't like we were in a sequel of the lovey-dovey honeymoon phase. It was a weird and confusing time. We weren't talking about getting back together. I already had a start date for my new job back home and my move was scheduled. He didn't know any of that. I was still in love with him, of course, and I hoped he'd tell me he wanted to get back together and I would have stayed. But he didn't. Finding out he was getting back with Grace hurt, but I can't say I felt used for sex. I don't think either of us knew what the hell we were doing by sleeping together again in the first place. Jeff is a simple man overall. I promise he's not some supervillain taking advantage of women and playing with their emotions. I'm not making excuses for him. I wish it were that easy to say that he's a dirtbag, and you should give me all your sympathy. In reality, I know who Jeff is as a person. Anyone who read my posts knows him as just a collection of bad and/or questionable choices he made. If you summarize anyone up to just the bad shit they've done, of course they'd come off as an unlikable person. Jeff's not evil or manipulative. He's just got some stuff he probably should have worked through years ago, and admittedly, I never thought his issues were that prevalent until we broke up. Plus, I'm positive that Grace knew we slept together while they were broken up. There's no way that was a shock to her. He would have told her himself, and even if he somehow hadn't, if Tanya knew, then everyone else knew shortly after. Guaranteed. Lastly, I appreciate everyone concerned about any custody issues that may arise from this. I was also amused by the people who were hyping themselves up thinking that I was delusional and actually going to be forced to put my baby on a plane by court order. I'm not sure why so many people on Reddit are used to dysfunctional relationships where judges and a huge custody battle need to be involved, but that's not us. Jeff and I were together, and very much in love for years. It might be hard to picture that when you've only read about the shitty end of our relationship, but everything before the breakup was an ideal relationship, which is exactly why it hurt me so much when he ended it. Things are weird now, but we don't hate each other. Our default option, even in a complicated situation like this, is not, we're taking this to court. That would be the last resort. I'm sure we'll work it out between ourselves long before it ever gets there. So on to the actual update. I planned on contacting Jeff after a couple weeks. I wanted to take time to gather my own thoughts and figure out what I wanted to say. Instead, I got phone calls from his number about a week after I returned home. He left a voicemail asking me to call him so we could talk. I was honestly furious because there's no way he should have been able to find my number unless somebody told him. It might not seem like it's a big deal, but to me I saw it as somebody who betrayed my trust in them. I texted him asking how he got my number. He said it wasn't important and that he wanted to talk. I said it is important to me, but he still didn't want to tell me. I told him we can talk when he tells me who he got my number from. So finally he told me who it was, and sent a screenshot of the conversation when I asked for proof. It was the second least likely friend I would have expected to break my trust. That's a whole other story though. So we talked over FaceTime and he told me that he absolutely wants to be in our son's life. He doesn't know how it's going to work long term, and neither do I. There was no threat of lawyers or his mom shouting grandparents' rights in the background like people were expecting. We're adults and we'll figure it out. The situation is not any easier to handle logistically, but emotions from that night have died down and we have clearer heads to move forward with. He did, however, have the audacity to tell me that he hates that I didn't tell him much sooner, and that I wasn't planning to tell him at all until Tanya found out, because he thought we meant more to each other than that. I told him I thought we did, until he told me not to contact him unless I was dying. That shut him up quickly because he knows now that it was an extreme and unnecessary thing to say even if he wanted to cut contact with me. He apologized for it and I apologized for not telling him about the baby myself. That's all we can really do. We're about to co-parent a child together so we don't get the luxury of holding a grudge with one another over past slights. He also told me that he and Grace are no longer together. He claims that it was a mutual decision, but that sounds too easy to me. How do you go from newly engaged to broken up in 18 hours with it being a completely clean process? I'm guessing he's just sparing me the ugly details on what must have actually happened. I do feel bad for Grace. Other than incorrectly assigning blame for her ruined engagement party, she didn't do anything wrong. I don't know her personally, But her proposal night should have been one of the best nights of her life, and it was ruined. I wouldn't want that for any woman. And because I know what everyone is gonna say, no, I am not seeing this as an opportunity to get back together with Jeff. Honestly, my focus is on my son right now. I'm not thinking about jumping into a relationship with anyone, much less the man who broke my heart once already. I think Jeff and I need to figure out how we're gonna co-parent first and foremost. And TBH, I want a man who loves me and chooses me for the person that I am, not because I happen to have given birth to his child. Plus, I don't know that I could ever get over that he proposed to Grace over me. Even if they broke off their engagement, I still want to know why she got a ring and I didn't. And I am going to ask eventually, but I don't think any answer will ever make it okay to me. A lot of people said it wasn't that he didn't want marriage, he just didn't want it with me. I find that hard to believe because, as I said above, we really had an ideal relationship. Our breakup wasn't a buildup of issues, it really was as simple as, you want marriage and kids, I don't. Which I think most would agree is just the natural end of a relationship. If it really is as simple as I just wasn't the one, then I want him to look me in the eyes and tell me that himself. Jeff is a terrible liar even when he's lying for a good reason, like a special surprise. He fidgets his fingers and can't maintain eye contact when he's lying. So if he looks me in the eyes and tells me his reason for why he chose to marry her and not me, I'll know if he's being honest. Jeff also told me that his mom wanted to send me stuff for the baby, so he asked for my address. I declined. I'm positive that there are no nefarious reasons and she's just excited and wants to help. This will be her first grandchild. However, I still felt a little uncomfortable giving them my home address. He's been texting me every day and calls me every night to say goodnight. Sometimes he wants to talk to the baby. It's a bit confusing for me because he broke up with me because he didn't want a kid, but now he wants to be involved to the point where he's going out of his way to contact me and ask if I need anything. It's strange, and I don't really understand how his brain works, but like I said in my last post, I won't deny him a relationship with his kid if he wants one. Jeff wants to visit me in person to talk properly, but I told him I'm not sure if that's necessary right now. He asked to come last weekend and I said no. Then he asked again about possibly coming this weekend, but I told him I can't, because I'm having my baby shower on Saturday. He wants to come. I'm not sure if that's a great idea. I'm not worried that he would say or do anything bad, and we're getting along over text VC. I can tell that he just wants to be involved, but part of me feels like it's sort of IDK, playing house almost? I guess it wouldn't be a big deal if I made it clear he would be here as a friend and the father of the baby, but not as anything more. My parents don't think it's a good idea, but I know that's just because they don't like Jeff, ever since he broke up with me. My sister, who is more level-headed, says that it could be a show of good faith that I'm serious about having a healthy co-parenting relationship, and it'll probably be easier to build that foundation now before the baby comes. My brothers don't care either way, but they say they're ready to beat up Jeff if he does or says anything stupid. He won't, but I love my brothers for always looking out for me. I'm not sure what I'm going to decide, but I know Jeff needs an answer soon so he can book a flight and a hotel room if I do say yes. I'm open to suggestions. Update 3. Hi everyone. I've been requested to give an update on the baby shower and whether or not I let Jeff attend. This post is rather lengthy as it covers a whole weekend, so I'm including a TLDR at the bottom. So I did end up allowing Jeff to come to my baby shower. When he called me the Monday night before my Saturday baby shower, I brought it up. I told him he could come if he agreed to 3 rules. We are not together. Don't touch me, hug me, or put your hands on my stomach unless I say it's okay. I agreed that we needed to have a serious talk. However, it only takes place after the baby shower. IDC if there's an awkward vibe because we have things we want to get out. We ignore it until after the baby shower. You stay in a hotel. I wasn't housing anyone. I needed my home to be my own place to return to if things got too overwhelming. Unsurprisingly, he was fine with all of those conditions and was just happy that he could come. I also told him he was free to invite his mother if she wanted to attend. He was relieved because she did mention wanting to come with him if he came. Everything was settled until the next day when he called to ask me if his brother and sister could come too. His stepdad had a prior commitment and wouldn't be able to attend. I shouldn't have been surprised Jeff asked about his siblings though. His family is really close-knit. They show up for each other and everything. I've never had any issues with anyone in his family. I always got along with his parents and siblings, especially his sister. I said it was fine. I didn't really care as long as they understood that I was the guest of honor at my baby shower and not a hostess, so I wouldn't be checking in with them the entire time. His sister also messaged me privately to ask if I was really okay with them all coming and that she and their younger brother could stay home if I didn't want them all there. It was totally unnecessary because I already said yes, but I really appreciated that she did that. Their flight got in on Friday afternoon. My parents decided to host a dinner for Jeff's family. They don't like Jeff anymore, but they felt that since he and I are now tied together for the next 18 years minimum, our families should be acquainted at least. When they got to my parents' house, the greetings were as awkward as expected. Jeff leaned down to my stomach and said hi to the baby. The baby kicked, and when I told Jeff, he got excited, so I offered to let him feel. I figured he should be able to have that moment. His mom was ecstatic that the baby was kicking, saying that he already knows his daddy's voice. She was so happy that I didn't have the heart to tell her that the baby had already been kicking for the past half hour before they got there. Dinner was fine. It was mostly talking about the baby shower. But we did also go around the table and everyone suggested names. I have to admit I'm a bit bummed about the naming. I was happy that I had sole decision power when it was just me, but now I have to get Jeff's approval too, which sucks. Some of the names he suggested were awful tbh. The day of the baby shower was long, but it went perfectly. Luckily Tanya was over 2,000 miles away, so she couldn't ruin the event. It was relatively big, as my family has always done co-ed baby showers. We even had some games specifically for the men in attendance. I felt a little bit bad about Jeff just being a guest, so we tried to include him last minute by letting him give the guys the rules for the bottle chugging game. It was tea, not beer of course. And we added a last-minute best dad joke competition that he got to decide the winner on. We also took some pictures together. As I said in my last post, I didn't want to play house with him, but honestly I was having such a great time that I didn't even mind that both sides of the family suggested pictures. More importantly, he asked for my consent before putting his arm around me and touching my stomach for the pictures, which was such a relief that he was respecting the boundaries I gave him before he came. After the baby shower ended, I invited Jeff's family to my house. I mentioned not wanting to give my address to him in my last post. Some people misunderstood that as me trying to stay hidden forever. Obviously he was going to know my address once the baby came. I think what those people failed to realize is that it was all happening so fast. Jeff got my number one day, and the next day he was asking for my address on his mom's behalf to send baby stuff. It was a lot and far too soon. But since everything was going great, I didn't mind so much inviting them to see my house. His mom cried when she saw the nursery. Then I started crying with her, cause I'm a hormonal mess some days. The nursery is basically finished. I had just bought a different shade of blue paint because I didn't like the one I initially chose after looking at it for a couple weeks. I was planning on it being repainted the next week, but Jeff and his brother offered to do it while they were there. I said no, obviously, because they were guests. My dad chimed in to say to let him, Jeff, do it, because it's about time he stepped up to help. Obviously my dad knows that Jeff just found out about the baby recently, and I reminded him of that. But my parents were the ones who comforted me every time I cried when I first moved back home, and again when I found out I was pregnant. It's gonna take a while for them to warm up to Jeff again. So Jeff and his brother painted the first coat with my dad while I talked to Jeff's sister outside. I asked her about Grace, but she wouldn't tell me what happened. She told me that it was a conversation between me and Jeff. She did tell me that her whole family tried to talk Jeff out of proposing because it was too fast, but he insisted, so they supported him. The only other thing she said was that Tanya has been banned from her family's events for the foreseeable future, and their families aren't on good terms, as Tanya's parents don't think what she did was a big deal. After the guys finished painting, everyone except my sister and Jeff left. Jeff and I decided to talk that night. My sister was in the living room in case it didn't go well, and I needed emotional support after Jeff left. He and I talked in my bedroom. My feet were killing me and I needed to lie down. So I did that, and Jeff sat on the other end of the bed. Neither of us knew how to start, so I just asked him point blank why he changed his mind about kids. I reminded him that he broke up with me because he didn't want marriage or kids. He said that it's true that he didn't want kids and that he's still afraid he'll screw it up somehow, but that the baby already exists, and so he already loves him and wants to be present for him. I then asked about Grace. I wanted to know why he proposed to her and not me. It's not relevant now, but I'm still human and I wanted to know what was different about her. He told me that he was never scared of marriage. He meant it when we discussed plans about marriage after I was done with school. He wanted to be married to me. It was just the kids part that he couldn't do. He says that he just added marriage into his reasoning for our breakup because he felt like it would be easier for me to accept. In his head I might have been able to overlook the kids thing at least for a few years, but he knew if he said he didn't want marriage either, then I wouldn't stay. IDK. Why he didn't just talk to me about it. Instead, he broke my heart because he thought he was setting me free. As for why he proposed to Grace, she was on the same page as him regarding children. She didn't want them. He said he talked to her about getting a vasectomy, and she was on board with his decision. He admitted that they moved too fast. She was pressuring him to propose to her and she wanted the big party, so the proposal wasn't a surprise event. Everyone knew what it was gonna be, including Grace, as she practically planned the thing herself. All of his family tried to talk him out of it and wait a bit longer, but he was afraid that he would lose another woman and didn't want to make the same mistake again. His words, not mine. I asked why they broke up because I didn't believe him that it was a clean, mutual decision. He said it was mutual but a bit messy. Apparently he and Grace talked that next day after everything went down. She told him that I ran away and to just let me go. She said she was willing to reconsider kids if he realized that he changed his mind, but that she didn't want to be a stepmom to my child. She basically gave him an ultimatum. He could choose either her or the baby, but not both. He asked her for the ring back right then and there. Apparently she threw it at him along with a few other heavier objects. He says they're fully done. He tried to do the sweet talk thing, telling me that he's glad it was me and not her that got pregnant. He says I saved him from making a huge mistake in marrying her. He regrets everything and wishes that he could redo the last 2 years and never break up with me. Then he asked if I could ever see us getting back together. I got frustrated at that point, and told him that he can't just keep jumping back and forth between us. He tried to defend himself, and while I agree that I don't think he does it with ill intent, it is what he's doing. I told him that he keeps letting his fear make hasty decisions for him and he needs to work on that with a therapist. I'm about to raise a baby. I don't need to be raising a man too. He did agree to go to therapy to work on his issues. Whether he actually does it or not, I don't know. I did make it clear that he needs to go into it understanding that it's for his and our son's benefit, and not just to win me back, because that's not my focus at all right now. That was pretty much it for our talk. At some point he ended up laying down beside me, so we were facing each other. There was no touching. We just talked while laying beside each other. I got sleepy and he left in an Uber back to his hotel. They were supposed to leave on Sunday, but their flight back home was delayed by a day due to the weather in California. So the next morning they all came over and Jeff and his brother finished the second coat of paint on the nursery. It came out perfectly. I'm really glad I went with the second color choice. I made the guys lunch as a thank you for their work, even though they were both happy to do it for their son and nephew. Jeff told me that he's planning on moving to my home state within the next month because he wants to be here for the baby's birth. His job does offer remote work, so he could do it without having to find a new job. As of now he says it would be temporary, but admitted that he doesn't know if he'll be able to leave once the baby is here. We'll see what happens. They left the next day while I was at work. Jeff stopped by my work to say goodbye in person. My co-workers all melted when they saw him say bye to the baby and promise him that he'd be back soon. They all think I should give him another chance for the baby's sake. Although I suspect that most of them are also easily swayed by the fact that Jeff is 6'3" and conventionally attractive, which they were constantly bringing up at my baby shower and when he came to say bye. Jeff and his family made it back home safe. I haven't heard much else about his plans to move here, but I imagine that will take a while anyway. TLDR. Jeff and his family came to my baby shower. Everything went fine. I got the answers that I wanted about why he proposed to Grace and why he changed his mind about being a dad. He's agreed to get therapy for his issues. We're moving forward with our co-parenting plan and he's likely going to be moving here, at least temporarily, when the baby is born. Comments. Just as an FYI, you still technically have sole naming power. If you don't want to exercise that right in order to keep the peace, be nice, that's up to you, but you don't have to. Honestly, it sounds like Jeff will go along with any name you like at this point just to keep you happy. I'm glad things are working out for you. Jeff's family sounds amazing. I see what you're saying, but I believe in choosing my battles. If my options are to find a name we're both happy with or risk bottled resentment from Jeff over me making a unilateral decision, because you're right, he would agree to me picking what I want just to keep the peace. I'm going with the first option. There are much more important things to hold my ground on regarding my child's future. I've seen people commenting on the surname too. Where I live, the kid almost always takes the dad's last name with few exceptions. Even my parents are expecting the baby to have Jeff's surname now that he's involved. While I wouldn't give any woman grief for wanting to pass her name on, it's not important to me. I know he's mine and that's all I need. Also, I've got 3 brothers, so the odds are extremely likely that our family name will be passed on through them anyway. I'm so happy for you. You indeed saved Jeff from marrying Grace, who seemed to be overbearing and domineering. I hope you and Jeff will co-parent peacefully. If you decide to give him a second chance, make him grovel. I bet his family are happy that Grace is gone. She sounds like a high-maintenance woman. Planning her own big engagement party after pressuring the guy to propose. Wow. Nobody said it directly, but I was definitely getting vibes that his family didn't like her very much. I don't know her personally, but she sounds a bit immature. Throwing things at someone during a breakup is just not okay. So Grace manipulated everything then. He was going to get married to the wrong person and regret it years later. I don't know if she manipulated him, but she definitely pressured him. He said that she told him she didn't want to waste her 20s on him if he wasn't serious about getting married eventually. He didn't tell me this, but I'm guessing maybe he told her about the reason for our breakup and she didn't want the same thing to happen to her, so she pressured him into proposing. Again, that's just a guess though. Oh, I have my own opinion, but girl, you are doing all very well and everything was perfect. He gave you a good explanation, and you gave him a great insight. I love what you said about how his fear was taking decisions and advice. I hope all of you find your way. Keep us informed. Yeah, his answer for every decision he made was, because I was scared of, which is just not a good way to go about anything. That's something he definitely needs to work on. My foster family of 11 years is kicking me out by the end of the week. I have nowhere to go and I feel broken. I, 18 male, was told earlier today that I need to pack up and leave by the end of the week. I still feel in shock. I was removed from my biological family when I was 7 due to issues with my parents. I was then placed in foster care and then matched with a couple who I will call the Peters. It's not their real name. No matter how much I actually want to blast their real info, I won't. The Peters were always really nice to me, and since I moved in when I was pretty young, after a while I started to consider them my parents. I called them mom and dad, treated them as my parents, treated their biological son as my brother. I wasn't their only foster child. They also have a 9-year-old boy who has lived with us for a little over a year. I was never adopted by them. I know why, because they live off the fostering allowance. Something that never really bothered me. They told me that it didn't matter, and that legality didn't make us a family. Which I believed. I went on their agency website earlier today and I found out that they are getting paid at least $2,400 for me per month. Or at least they were. Since I turned 18, they stopped getting the allowance. However, they applied for a staying put arrangement for me, which meant they would continue getting paid something as they continue to support me and let me live with them. It wasn't as much. I think it was like $1,000 per month. They told me they had it approved until I was 21, so I thought I'd be able to stay at least until I finished uni. They sat me down today and told me I had to leave. They told me that fostering is a business and that they couldn't afford to keep me on just the stay put arrangement allowance. They told me I had until the end of the week. 4 days. How generous of them. They said they need my room because they want to get a new foster placement. They literally told me it's not personal. Like that makes me feel any fucking better. They said they would still consider me like a son, not their son anymore. Like a son, and that they want to keep in touch. What a joke. They choose to kick me out. An 18-year-old with no job, no income, no nothing. About to start university. Yet their bio son who is 25 gets to stay? So yeah. I guess fuck me, right? I'm just the one no one ever wanted. I guess I wasn't ever truly part of their family. Relevant comments. Accomplished Emu 591. I am sorry for your situation. However, you should contact the agency that was paying them. Tell them what they did, and ask for referrals to other organizations that can provide you assistance with finding employment and attending uni. It is even possible that your report of their behavior would make them ineligible for further paid foster placement. Not likely, but possible. No address 1159 responding to Accomplish EMU 591. Calling your former social worker is 100% a great idea, OP. Or going to Citizens Advice. There is plenty of support available to former foster children and they will help you find what you're eligible for. The part about reporting them, sadly there wouldn't be anything legally wrong or against any fostering practices for what they're doing. As long as they don't continue to claim on the staying put order, that is. In England, fostering is generally treated more as a business than as something you do for love, as it is in the US. Which has its upsides and its downsides. Morally though, the Peters are despicable people in my opinion. Jen in Miami. I'm so sorry. If it makes you feel any better, many parents kick their biological kids out once they turn 18 too. OP. Answer. It doesn't really, if I'm honest. Mouse and Ladybug. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. These are garbage people. I'd be reporting them for fraud. They can't accept money to have you stay there if you aren't. OP. Answer. They'll probably cancel the staying put arrangement altogether, so I don't think they'll continue to be paid for me after I leave. Though that is something I am 100% checking in a few weeks. Po boy from Po family. They're doing it for the money. That is why. It's unfortunate and they sound horrid. I'm sorry, OP. I hope it all works out for you. Leaving will suck. But at least you won't be surrounded by greedy leeches. OP answer: I thought they were my family. I'm genuinely considering going no contact with them after I'm set up whatever I'll end up doing next week. Cookie94. You absolutely should. You were 7 when you went into their care. They denied you the opportunity to find a real family who love you for you and not the dollars you brought in. Fuck them. You deserve better. OP answer: I doubt anyone would have adopted me. I wasn't a great kid, in truth had more issues than a hospital piss pot. I wasn't a great kid in any sense. But I changed. Genuinely I changed. I can't help but wonder if this is because of how I was as a young child. Nene 1-3-3-8. I'm so sorry this has happened to you, honey. You must be feeling awful. Do you have a care leaver's personal advisor? Not sure which area you are in. They should be supporting you to find move-on accommodation in a supported setting if needed, or support you to approach your local housing office for support. Without cause, your foster family cannot give you 4 days notice to leave. They would need to give formal notice, which is usually about 4 weeks. It would be worth calling your Children's Services Duty, VOR, out-of-hours telephone number and explaining the situation, because it will be whoever is responsible, i.e. the personal advisor's team, who will be paying the staying put fees to the foster carers. So there is someone who is responsible and will need to provide immediate support to help you. OP answer: Yeah, I'm meeting with him today. I'm going to tell him they've given me a verbal 4-day notice and that I need urgent help. If I'm honest, I don't want to stay here anymore. The whole dynamic has changed and none of them even look me in the eyes now. But I'm not going to make myself homeless, so I'll stay until I have accommodation, and I'm not leaving the house until I do. Brightad3 is 06. It is awful, but if they counted on that money to make rent, they might not have much of a choice. I wouldn't conduct myself that way, but not every foster couple is rich. OP answer: They own their own home. And just some quick math for anyone interested. I don't know what package I was placed on because there's a difference allowance for each package, but according to the fostering agency website, the minimum was $2,400 for me. It goes to a maximum of $3,400 per month, but I'll estimate off the lowest. Mine obviously stopped, but it would be the same for the 9M foster placement they have now. So, $2,400 x 12 for ours, $28,800 per year. Plus my $12,000 per year from the staying put order. Gave them a nice $40,800 per year. Which they would pay little, if any, tax on, as a fostering allowance is taxed very lightly here. That may not sound like a lot to Americans with your high wages, but the average post-tax wage where I live is $23,985 per year. They had enough, I think. Mini update. Okay, thank you guys for all your advice. Honestly, I was in a state of shock yesterday. Maybe still am today. I wasn't thinking straight. I only slept 2 hours last night, that's all, so I'm probably a little delirious today as well. Firstly, I have contacted my personal advisor. He'll be having an emergency meeting with me at 1:30, so I'll have more details about what's going to happen to me then. He'll hopefully be able to sort out emergency accommodation for me. Secondly, to those of you saying the Peters can't legally just give me 4 days notice to leave, I will definitely be mentioning this to my personal assistant and get his advice on it. I don't want to stay here any longer than I need to because they told me it's like I don't exist. They just look right through me. But I'm not going to move out until I have safe accommodation for me. I will outright refuse. I am not going to be made homeless. Thirdly, those of you saying contact my uni, I have an offer from them, but it's only conditional if I get my predicted A levels. Hopefully I will, but since I'm not technically a student yet, I don't know if they will actually provide any support yet. Finally, I am also going to ensure that the staying put allowance stops. I will tell my personal assistant today that it should surely be stopped if I'm not living with them. Luckily, I have some money saved. Some people here have said I should be entitled to a bursary when I start uni, and I'll have my maintenance student loan to help me. I've already started looking for a job. Relevant comments: Snaggleth00T4. Good luck. I'd cut all ties with them. They are not good people. Celebration Main, 8329. Good luck, OP. I am here rooting for update 2. Okay, hi everyone, I just got home and am feeling incredibly tired, so this is just going to be a short update. Basically, I had a big long meeting with my personal assistant and he was very sympathetic and felt upset that the Peters are treating me this way. We had one meeting and then I went to get food while he spoke to the Peters directly, and then I came back to meet him again to let me know everything that has happened. He's putting me on the list for social housing. I am hopeful that it will not be long until I am able to get my own house. I recorded the meeting because I'm so sleep deprived, and also, I have really bad memory processing for long things like that because of my dyslexia, autism or something, I'm not sure. I can listen to it again tomorrow after I've slept, but from what I gather they will help me with paying for rent costs. I will also get some money to help pay for furniture and things like that. When he spoke to the Peters, I don't know if he said they had to keep me housed for a while or asked them to. I'm not sure. But they've agreed to keep housing me until the end of August, so at least I don't have to worry about everything happening in 3 days. He did tell me that if I feel uncomfortable, I can be moved into a youth hostel place while they wait for a property to be available for me. But I said, if I can, I would rather stay with the Peters until I am ready to move. Even if it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. He told me they will continue getting paid the staying put allowance until the day I officially move out, and then it will be stopped. On a completely separate note, my best friend and I had a huge argument earlier. He said that I'm being ungrateful, and honestly what he said really hurt me. We had a huge argument. I just thought out of everyone he would get me and understand what I was going through. Maybe not. Maybe I'm being unreasonable. I am really tired, so maybe my emotions are just not being controlled well at the moment. I am going to talk to him tomorrow after I've slept, and I'm hoping this argument will just blow over because I need him at the moment. I don't feel like I have anyone else. Oh, and I haven't read all the comments because I didn't expect to get so many. Thank you everyone who has offered support. It is genuinely so sweet and I am so thankful. Relevant comments Gen 820. Glad things are working out. Don't worry about your friend. Right now you are in survival mode. Trying to make sure you aren't on the streets. Hope everything keeps working out for you. OP answer. He said I should be grateful that they kept me that long anyway. Like the fuck? I'm not a pet. He also said some other things like how it's good that they're going to help another child like I was. Which is true, and I get that it's a good thing what they're doing to help people. But him saying those things make me feel like I'm being crazy for wanting to stay like I was promised by them. Ugh, I'm too tired and maybe I'm being irrational. I'm going to talk again with him tomorrow and say I'm sorry. Long and unimportant rant. It never bothered me that they were paid to keep me before. Genuinely never bothered me at all. I always knew I was a foster child. I was about 15 when I learnt that they were paid money to look after me, and I told myself it was a good thing. And it probably was. I have had loving parents for 11 years, which is more than some people can say. I just didn't ever think they'd make me move out when the payment stopped being as high. I found out that when I was still a child they were paid $111.82 per day for me. That's $40,114 per year. I had never felt different to the family. I had always felt loved and secure. I don't understand why they have changed their minds about me. None of them will even look at me in the eyes anymore, and it's gotten to the point where I can't leave my room anymore because all I feel is the absence of the love that used to be there. I didn't come down for any meal times, which was a rule that you had to before. If I didn't go down before, I wouldn't have gotten any food. But Mum brought it up to my room and knocked on the door to say she was going to leave it there for me. I've used that 100 times over and over again in my head, to try and convince myself that they still love me. I called her by her first name when I came home yesterday. Not Mum, Claire. She looked upset when I did that, and a part of me is happy about that, and a part of me feels cruel for it. I knew it would hurt her and I did it anyway. In some ways I wish she wakes up to the pain she's causing me. I hope she takes it back and says that it is a lapse in judgment, and that she loves me and wants me to stay. But if that were going to come, I think it would have already. I guess I'm not worth the $76 per day they lose by not replacing me with another foster child. When I feel bad about hurting them, I remind myself they're kicking me out to get an extra $76 a day. That's what I'm worth to them. $76 per day. Relevant comments OP respond. I don't expect anyone to read this or care, but I want to say thank you for the immense love you've all shown me. I feel nothing but gratitude to you all. My in bad book. I'd like to think, at least a part of the reason for their lack of eye contact and emotional withdrawal is due to their feelings of absolute embarrassment, guilt and shame. That she seemed upset with being called her name, I feel, somewhat supports this. And they should feel this way. However, I really do hope they can put these feelings, and their egos, to the side and take steps to actively make amends and rebuild the relationship. I really am sorry this is happening, and I'm so very happy you had a secure and safe childhood. Edit. To add, I follow you and read your posts because I really want you to be okay. You didn't deserve this. No child does, no matter their struggles. I've been thinking about you and putting all the good thoughts out there for you. Emgen France, your feelings are valid and important. You are not alone. Adopted is a great group here on Reddit just for adoptees. People who understand because they've been there. You can also find groups on Facebook, and there may even be local groups in your area if you'd like to connect with people in person. You're doing amazing. Okay, I am going to try and condense this as much as possible. Basically, 18 male, got removed from my bio family when I was 7. I got taken into foster care and was matched with a family called the Peters. I was then raised by the Peters for the remainder of my life, from 7 all the way until now. They had originally told me that I was able to live with them indefinitely, as I considered the Peters my family. And they applied for a stay order with me, which basically means they continued to get paid something like $250 by the government to recognize that they're continuing to support a former foster child, me, after my 18th birthday. As I said before, I was always told by Peters I could stay as long as I needed to set myself up in life. Their bio son, who I considered my brother, is 25 and still lives with them. He doesn't work but graduated university 2 years ago. I have a conditional offer at a local university which I'm studying classics with aims to become a teacher. I start in October, if I get my predicted A-levels, which I think I will. But the Peters told me that I had to leave by the end of the week because they wanted to get another foster child. This is something they really sprung on me. And it's been extremely difficult for me. I had to get in contact with my social worker who spoke with the Peters, and now they're letting me stay until the end of August, but the whole family has changed. I explained all this to my best friend, and I said I was considering going no contact with them after I moved out. He ranted to me about how ungrateful I'm being to them. And how they raised me for 11 years and now they want to give that to another child in a position like I was. I get that, and that's part of the reason why I feel so guilty. My friend isn't speaking to me now, calling me selfish for wanting to stay with the Peters like I was promised. And for them trying to get rid of me with 4 days' notice. There were plans they could have taken to transition me into independent living before I turned 18, and they chose not to take part in them, because they told me I could always stay with them. The one time of my life I needed my friend, and he's gone too, and I feel so alone, and I can't understand why he's taking their side over mine. I understand the argument that they will continue to help another child, but at the same time I just wish they didn't have to throw me out to do so. When I suggested to my friend they could have asked their bio son to move out instead of me, and he just said, "I'm being selfish." I still don't even know if I am going to go no contact with them. I just said I felt like doing it, and I wish I didn't even say that because I didn't expect it to cause such an argument. So, am I the relevant comments? Top reveal 847. You poor kid, your friend is an and you're certainly not. Even if there is another kid waiting and desperately in need, they could have and should have at least let you plan ahead more than a few days in advance, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Are you foster parents at least helping you find a place? Edit to add that you should let someone at the university know. IDK how it's done where you are, but some universities have programs for stuff like this. Wardog 1983. You not the The Peters are using the fostering system to support themselves. They do not care about helping the kids. They say that to justify their callous treatment of you. They should not be foster parents. I'm sorry about your friend, his point of view is a betrayal because it is simply wrong. Scott's way. Hey. Dude, my cousin used to foster kids. She fostered 3 sisters and 1 other girl. I use the words because she adopted them as she wasn't in it for the money. OP answer. I don't really even care that they were looking after me and getting money for it. It doesn't bother me. I never knew how much they were getting to look after me, but I did know they were being paid. It does make me hurt and betrayed that they're kicking me out for a difference of 70-something pounds a day. Material, Cellist 4133. Not the Also, you are far from ungrateful. You were 100% grateful until they made it about money. You thought they took care of you because they were good people. Instead, they took care of you for money. It's an even exchange, nothing to be grateful about. Peters found my Reddit posts. The Peters' son, Jamie, has found my original Reddit post. I guess I should have been more careful with the details, but my mind was so frantic at the point of writing it I just couldn't think straight. I'm not sure how he found it, but considering it has almost 10k upvotes, and Jamie was the person who introduced me to Reddit, I guess it might have just popped up on his page. Does anyone know if it might have popped up to him because we're on the same network, in the same location? A few hours ago Jaime came to my room. He showed me the original post and asked if I had written it. At first I tried to deny it, but I'm an awful liar, so he just knew. He asked why I didn't tell him about this, and I said I thought he knew. He told me he had no idea and would not have supported his parents throwing me out if he did. He was told I requested to move out. He genuinely seemed shocked and appalled at the details in the post. Against my wishes he shared the post in the family group chat. He did this out of a place of wanting to defend me. Mom, Dad, I really think you should read this and see the impact this is having on. But I really wish he didn't do it. They've both read the message but neither have responded. I have not left my room since. I'm really anxious right now. like I'm at the level before a panic attack. I can feel one coming on. Relevant comments. Polly6119. Stay calm and know that you did nothing wrong. They may try to gaslight you. They may lie to your brother. They don't have a good track record for being decent people. But no matter what they do, remember you did nothing wrong. They cannot throw you out because of it. They have learned their lesson on that. I'm glad to know your brother didn't agree with their horrible decision, and I'm glad that he found out. Him not looking you in the eye these past couple of days may have had something to do with the tension already in the air and him thinking you just up and wanted to leave. I hope it turns out that they realize their mistakes and apologize profusely. But brace yourself for that not happening and that they may get upset with you for airing dirty laundry. They may end up trying to guilt you and blame everything on you. They may do nothing. Please remember, no matter what they say and no matter what your ex-best friend said, you did nothing wrong. Your feelings are valid. You deserve love. You did not deserve what they did to you. Afternoon agitated 803. Calm and breath. Sounds like he's being a big brother and sticking up for you, because for him you're his sister and he loves you. So talk to him more, lean on him more, he's an adult, he can handle it. The moving out. The Peters could have really dealt with this in such a better way. They could have talked to you about, now that you're an adult and soon going to university, we'll go and talk to your caseworker about finding you your own place to live, and we'll be able to help another little kid just like you when you came here, but you've got to come round for Sunday dinner. Or something like that. They handled this so badly, saying yes you can stay till 21, then telling you exactly the money they receive, and then telling you to get out by the end of the week. Where did they expect you to go, FFs? Do the foster parents not work at all? Or are the children their only job? And although he's being a good brother to you right now, if he finished uni 2 years ago, why isn't he working or getting training or something? 2 years of not putting his degree to use will show those in whatever field he did the degree in that he has no work ethic at all. I've just tonight been reading through all your posts and I completely understand why you're thinking of going LC with foster parents. They've handled it really badly, and next time you see your caseworker, ask them, do foster parents not get training or anything on how to handle this situation of when a child is reaching 18? Tell the caseworker you want notes or something put on their file of how badly they have handled this, so that any future foster kids they look after, their file shows. This is what they do when the money drops down, so that a future caseworker can put the child's needs first and they don't go through what you went through. With your friend, he's being a bit of an asshole. I'm guessing by the language used he has the privilege of living with his birth parents his whole life and is in no danger of being told he has to get out in 5 days? He is not acknowledging he's in a position of privilege in this situation. I'd message him and say, these last few days have been crazy, and although you wouldn't know what it feels like to be in this position, I was just looking for a friend to listen to. It's been a stressful and upsetting few days and I don't want to fall out with you. And just suggest something you usually do together if you play a computer game or just hang out. End it with, do you want to play comp hangout tomorrow? And leave it at that and see what they say. Fairy Rebels Wild, to the Peters. From OP's posts, it sounds like you had a genuine relationship with him, or at least he felt you did. It's good that you were able to provide a stable family life for him. Considering that you had originally told OP he could stay and you had applied for him staying put, I'm going to assume that somehow your circumstances changed. That sucks. But you handled this in the worst way possible. You should have approached OP in a collaborative manner, explaining the situation. Phrased it as not being able to support him anymore, rather than fostering being a business. Explored if him getting a job and financially contributing would have helped. Actually help him connect with his personal assistant for those transitional services and with their advice, making a realistic move-out date. Everything you did was wrong. Saying fostering as a business taints every family interaction or affection as fake and transactional. I dare say pretending to be his family is worse than if you had kept it businesslike from the beginning. Verbal 4 days notice is actually heartless. How cruel and frankly, unrealistic, especially as you knew, being the ones to have originally allowed him to stay, that he wasn't applied to the transitional services yet. You can't expect him to continue treating you as family while you treat him as a former business colleague. Again, heartless and unrealistic. I hope you learn to be more empathetic to your future foster kids, or at least, be honest to them about your intentions from the beginning. What I'm going to send in the family group chat. Is this a bad idea? To Matt and Claire. I came to you as a 7-year-old. A 7-year-old who had never felt love or affection, or anything remotely nice. I was taught at a young age to fear those in authority. To fear the sudden changes in the moods of my birth parents. I was taught to bottle up my emotions and my pain and never show it. When I first came to you, My life was ruled by fear and anxiety. I know my behaviors back then were awful, and were a struggle to manage. I had been taught there were no consequences for some actions. And firm, scary, and hard consequences for others. The worst part was that those actions never seemed to be consistent. I could do something one day and be praised by my birth family, and another day I would be beaten. Love was not something given, it was something earned. It was conditional and shallow. You both showed me another way. You showed me love and affection, and at first it felt confusing and hard to comprehend. I couldn't see myself as anything more than a nuisance. I couldn't see why someone would love me. I couldn't understand why you weren't beating me. Do you remember me telling you, "You can hit me if I am naughty, I won't mind"? Slowly you taught me to trust and love myself, and those around me. You showed me that no matter what I did, you wouldn't give up on me. You wouldn't send me away or hate me. And I really tried to make you. I know that. I was scared. You made me realize that it wasn't my own fault I was in care, and that I wasn't to blame for the things that happened to my birth family. You showed me appropriate outlets to my fears. You showed me love, compassion, and kindness. The first day I remember feeling truly safe was when I was sitting in your arms at 8 years old watching Shrek. I still think back to that moment. It probably just felt like another day to you. But to me, it is a core memory in my life. It's a moment that shapes the way I see myself. You sat up with me when I was worried about moving up to secondary school. You comforted me when my birth mom told me she no longer wanted to be part of my life. You were there when XX broke up with me when I was 15 years old and I felt like my whole world was ending again. You encouraged me to go beyond my studies and apply to university. The most important thing you showed me was that I was worthy of being loved and respected. You never gave up on me. I am who I am today because of what you did. I look at myself and I see compassion, care, and kindness. And in those traits I see you. You weren't my birth family, but you were my family. My only family. I don't know what changed. Why has there been a switch? Why have you gone from the loving and caring parents you were? When I leave my room now, I no longer feel that love and kindness that brought me out of the pits of despair as a child. It's almost as if you have completely altered the way you see me, and I just can't understand why. A few days ago you told me I had to move out. You gave me 4 days notice to leave my family. You sent me back into feeling like that child at 7 years old. I'm not saying this to guilt you or to ask you to let me stay. That is past now, and unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever be able to see you the same way again. I understand if you were hard on money or if you wanted to help another child like me. But why not talk to me? Why spring it on me and then act like I don't matter? Why tell me it's just business? Did you think that would make it hurt less? Since you told me my whole life has been turned upside down and I don't know how I will make it to the other side. If I had felt like this a few weeks ago, do you know who I would have gone to? I would have gone to you. I would have told you my worries and my fears, and you would have said the exact right thing, and then we'd sit together and watch some awful TV show. And now, I have no one again. I feel like I'm being told for the second time in my life that I don't deserve a family. And this time I have no one to pick me up off the edge. That was always you, Mom and Dad. It was always you I could rely on. Why are you giving up on me now? Relevant comments. OP respond. I really feel like today the whole thing has just hit me in the face again. I think the emotions I was feeling were being blocked, and today they've been let out and I've done nothing but cry all day. Jay loves writing. Send it to them. Let them know how you feel, how they hurt you, and that they cannot expect you to ever contact them again after you leave. They need to know how you feel. Send it to them, and if you want to, leave the GC. Because they may try to justify their actions, and you don't need to hear it. OP answer. The sad thing is I don't think I even want that. I want them to love me again. I've contacted my personal assistant, and I'm moving out today. My personal assistant is allowing me to store my things I can't take with me in his garage. It's kind of him. He's found me a place at a local hostel. I'll get my own room apparently, which was a big deciding factor on if I wanted to move in or not. The hostel works with the LA and houses a lot of care leavers, the English term for someone who has aged out of foster care, while they wait for their own houses. I haven't sent the message yet, but I know my foster brother Jamie has seen it. Yesterday I felt overwhelming emotions, today I feel none. I don't know which is better. I'll send it once I'm moved out. I have a room, so I'll be gone in a few hours. I still haven't spoken to them, but I just can't face it anymore. I am sick of being anxious and stressed about this. I guess they did get their 4-day notice after all. Edit 1. I have just left Peter's house for the last time. The room is ready for me at the hostel. I feel so weird and sad and lonely right now. I've ordered myself a pizza to have for dinner today. And my PA even paid for it. I just want to get in bed and cry. My head is spinning thinking about everything I need to do. Wish me luck, everyone. Edit 2. I want to clarify something. I was hurt and in shock when I wrote my first post, but I want to make it understood that I was never eligible to be adopted. At first, the end goal for me was to reintegrate myself into my birth family. By the time we knew that was never going to happen, I wouldn't have accepted adoption as I wanted to keep my legal ties with my birth family. The Peters always told me it didn't matter that I didn't want to be adopted, and they loved me the same anyway. Maybe it wouldn't have changed anything, or maybe it would have. They were paid fortnightly for caring for me, and they would get $1,565.48. That's $4,702.48 per year they got just to raise me, which is about $52,295.77. I keep thinking about that number. Was that all I was? I wonder what I would change if I could go back in time. Edit 3. I am settled in the hostel now. It's not exactly luxury, to say the least. But at least I'm here now. I sent the text message, very slightly altered from the one I wrote yesterday. And then I left the group chat. I also posted it on Facebook. That was probably the wrong thing to do. I don't know. Final update. This is going to be my final update on all of this. I want to put everything behind me. Claire rang me crying, saying she had no idea I felt like this. How? How could she not know? She said she was sorry and begged me to come back. God. How do I ruin everything? She was telling me all these things about how she regrets the past few days so much and wishes she could take it all back. I said this is not fair. She cannot throw me out and then call me crying. I said it's manipulative. She just kept saying sorry. She said she loves me and wants me to come home. Jesus. This is just a lie, right? She must have known. Am I the bad person here? I feel so confused I don't know what to do. I just hung up and then she started texting me and I blocked her. But now I feel like I'm the bad person here. I'm so tired of this. Of all of this. I want nothing to do with any of them. I don't think Reddit is good for me. I'm not sure any of this is good for me. I'm going to delete the app. Sorry everyone, relevant comments Calamity Curls. I've been following along with your updates as you post them OP, and I want to tell you that I'm so sorry you're going through this, that you deserve better, and that you are so strong in a situation where you shouldn't have to be. I'm glad your personal assistant is helping you, and I wish you nothing but success and happiness. OP answer. Thank you. I considered contacting my bio mom. Last time I spoke to her was when I was a young teen. But I think it might just be seeking out something to make myself feel more hurt, and I don't think I could deal with any more rejection. To bigger and better things. 8 marshmallows. I can't believe the Peters were too cowardly to even say anything to you. Will this whole situation make them ineligible for future placements? I would think there is a reporting structure and your personal assistant would be obligated to flag their file for this. OP answer. Doubt it. My personal assistant didn't even seem shocked by the situation as a whole, and I think my parents have framed it as us falling out to their social worker. Despite me making it clear that's not the case from my POV. I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I'm so stupid. I, female 26, had an affair with a married man, male 42 a few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and hooked up. I obviously looked him up on social media, and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together, but he told me it was just a marriage on paper and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s and so attracted to him and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me, the great sex, the places he'd take me. I felt special. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy, but during my relationship with him I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy, it's embarrassing. The things he'd asked me to do, I'd say yes to almost anything, even when I knew it was a bad idea. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. I hadn't intentionally wanted to get pregnant. I would of course dream about being his wife and having a family, but I knew that wouldn't be a possibility while he had this arrangement with his actual wife. I didn't get pregnant on purpose with any intention of him leaving her for me, even if I wish that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me, but I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay, to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting, what the F, and to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married to the outside world. I agreed to do what he wanted and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to go get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up, but I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promised to leave me alone. At first he tried to sweet talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming him as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their siblings and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. How do I respond to this? I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings, if she's being genuine about that. If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same that she does. Relevant comments. Comment 1: I didn't know he was married when we first got together. I acknowledge that I should have ended the relationship as soon as I found out he was married. I allowed myself to believe what he told me, which made it seem not so bad. Like this was some sort of agreement he and his wife had. Emotionally, I was already hooked. I'm not making excuses. I wouldn't say I was happy to bring a baby into this situation. There was a huge mix of emotions. I felt like I was in love with him, so there was a part of me that was excited at first. That feeling soon died, but I still felt that I loved my baby still. I tried to do the best thing that I could, which was to remove myself from his life and his family's life. I just wanted to be able to keep my baby and love my baby. I did not get pregnant on purpose. I wasn't on birth control. I had been on birth control when I was slightly younger and had life-threatening health complications as a result. He knew I wasn't on birth control. He loved unprotected sex. I was stupid and I agreed to do it. I would do almost anything he asked sexually. I tried to track my cycle and would tell him when it was probably not a safe time to do it. His wife isn't really what I'm afraid of. Whatever she'd want to say to me is probably deserved anyway, and more. Comment 2. He found out about the pregnancy before I ghosted him. And upon finding out I was pregnant with his child, there was absolutely no real discussion about what we were going to do. We were going to do what he wanted to do and he had it all planned out. He threatened me, by text and by phone calls and voicemails, when I told him I was not going to go with him on this abortion vacation he had planned. I begged him to please not force me to do that and he turned mean. I offered to never contact him again if he'd just let me go. After threatening me again, about what he'd do if I didn't keep my word, he agreed. He has kept his side of the bargain and has never contacted me. Comment 3. I've been assuming that she found out about me on her own, maybe saw something on his phone or computer and has probably known for a while before reaching out to me, if it's actually her. I get what some people are saying about siblings and such, but that man is not my child's dad. He is the dad of his older kids but he's not the dad of my kid. I'm still young and I hope to have more children one day, and those children would be my son's siblings. I hope to find a man who loves me and my son and with whom I can have a legitimate relationship. I haven't been with another man since I ended things with this guy. I actually just went on 2 dates for the first time very recently. I'm not desperate to find a man right now, but I hope to find real love one day. Those people are not my son's family. He's 2 and they're old enough to drive. So I don't think they're missing out on any sort of important relationship right now. I understand wanting to know your bio family, and I feel he can decide that later on when he's old enough to have a day. Depending on where we are in our lives at the time, he might not feel a need to know those people. I don't plan to lie to my son about his conception, but I don't think we need to involve ourselves with the man's ex-wife and teenage children at this time. Update 1. I made a post 3 weeks ago and things have only gotten stranger. I had an affair with a married man a few years ago. I regret it and I will never do anything like that ever again. I knew it was wrong from the very beginning, but he captivated me. I was naive. I allowed myself to believe when he told me they were pretty much just married on paper for the sake of their kids. I got pregnant and while he tried to talk me into getting an abortion, I ultimately decided to keep the baby. I have a 2-year-old little boy now. I promised this man that I wouldn't expose our affair and I wouldn't formally identify him as the father or request child support. I did that because he was becoming very nasty about the whole thing and I felt like due to the mess that I had created and the way I felt by the end of it, a clean break with no involvement with him would be the best thing for everyone. I moved back to where my family is, hundreds of miles from where he and his family live. About a month ago his ex-wife reached out to me via social media, claiming they had been divorced for 6 months and that she wanted our children to be able to know each other. Now their kids are teenagers, so I didn't really think they'd want anything to do with the toddler and the woman their father was having an affair with. It seemed odd to me. After posting here, I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night, I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect, if this was all a ploy just to unleash her fury on me or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us, after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years and she knew about somebody even before he met me, but she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me, essentially. She said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me, but she has moved past that. She still has anger toward him, in addition to many other emotions surrounding him. She started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus year marriage and life together and it was very awkward because what do I even say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate myself if I were them. I told her that with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down. So he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital. She said the accident really shook him up and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son, not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like was everything she said just a lie and he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf. And she actually did it? It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially. But then it's like was any of that true or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I don't believe I have to involve his teenage children in my son's life. Maybe when my son is old enough to decide if he wants that. He is not named on the birth certificate and I do not receive child support from him. I have asked nothing of him, except to let me move away and not try to force me to have an abortion. I basically had to promise him to not contact him, not make him as the father, not request child support. If he truly wants involvement with my son he can reach out to me directly and he can take the legal route to establish himself as our son's father. Comment 2. He did not legally sever his rights. He never established rights in the first place. He has no rights until he goes to court and establishes himself as the father. He is welcome to do that. Honestly, I wish my son did have a father who was involved in his life and loved him. Yes, this guy has faults, but he has plenty of positive qualities. He is really involved with his older children. I met them many times because they'd be at work with him or he'd have to drop by the office on his way to take them somewhere. He was always doing things with them. They seemed like good kids who really loved their dad. I wish my son could have that experience too. I didn't think it was an option based on how he behaved when I was pregnant. He wasn't interested and wanted me and our baby to go away. That's what I did. And I accepted it. Comment 3. He is not legally my son's father at this time. This means that currently he has no legal parental rights or responsibilities regarding my son. I cannot stop him from taking the legal steps to establish paternity if he wishes to do so. He will always be my son's biological father. I can't change that fact. Regardless of whether or not he ever legally establishes paternity, my son will likely be curious about his biological father, and who knows, maybe they will establish a relationship one day regardless of legal paternity. There is no way to say if I will meet a man who may want to adopt my son one day, thus becoming his legal father. It's something that I think would be nice, but nothing that I'm intent on doing. By choice, I've only been on 2 dates since my son was born, and that was only within the year 2024. I realize that it will not be as simple as signing a piece of paper. Update 2. I posted about this a few months ago. To summarize very quickly, when I was fresh out of college I had an affair with a married man and father. I became pregnant. He wanted me to get an abortion. He had arranged to take me away on a vacation, to get an abortion. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I agreed to go along with what we wanted. At the last minute, when he was on his way to come pick me up, I told him I couldn't go through with the abortion. I just really didn't feel comfortable about his plan and how he was orchestrating everything. It scared me. I realized at that time how deep I had gone with this mistake, how screwed up the whole relationship was. He was really mad. He threatened me, said a lot of nasty things to me. I told him if he just left me alone and let me have my baby, then I'd leave him alone and wouldn't name him as the father or seek child support. I moved back home. I was living in a different state when I met him. I kept my word and I didn't name him as the father or seek to establish paternity. I have never sought child support. My child is 2 now. A few months ago his wife contacted me via social media. At first she made it seem like she wanted my child to have the opportunity to know his siblings. It was sort of weird since the siblings are teenagers. She said she had divorced him 6 months prior. I agreed to talk to her virtually, not in person. I felt that I owed it to her to apologize for what I had done. I do feel bad about it. But at the end of the conversation I told her that I didn't feel it was the appropriate time to connect my son with her kids. He's a toddler and in their teens, plus I had promised her husband to stay out of his life. That's when she told me that he was recently in a bad accident and she had been helping to take care of him. Supposedly he was going to be fine and was fairly recovered at that point, but she said he had expressed interest to meet our child. So she was basically his messenger. I have not been in contact with her since then. I deleted my social media. I don't know why, but the whole thing just really made me uncomfortable. Since I last posted here. Then I received a handwritten letter from him. In it, he expressed how he wanted to get to know our son, he wants to be a father to our son, he wants to provide financially for him, he'd like us to come visit him. He asked me to sign a paternity affidavit. I refused to do so. I know he is my son's father, but I'm not going to make this that easy for him. After the things he said to me and threatened me with, he at least has to work for this. At that point, my parents felt that we needed to meet with a lawyer. All communication from me has gone through a lawyer. I have never responded to him personally, directly. Now I have a court order for paternity. I have to present my son to have a specimen taken tomorrow. I already know what it's going to say. It's not that I don't want my son to have a dad in his life. It's just, the whole situation is a mess. And he lives a few states away from me. I don't know what to do. I can't really do anything. He's doing things legally. Next, I'm sure he'll petition for some form of custody or visitation. He's not married anymore, supposedly, but he's a lot more established than I am. He has considerably more financial resources. I also know he has all sorts of connections where he lives. Luckily, they don't hold as much weight here in my state, but it's still so scary to me. I'm a bad mom. I brought my son into this world knowing it was a messy situation. I just got so comfortable with it just being the 2 of us, and now I don't want to give that up. Relevant comments OP on if the father would be moving closer to her and her son now that he's divorced from his ex-wife. OP answer, to touch on just a few things. I don't think he'll move away from where he lives. He has way too much established there. He's in his early 40s. I don't know how this supposed accident, if that even really happened, has affected him, but he was incredibly physically active when I knew him. He only slept like 4 hours a night, took a 20-minute power nap daily, and rarely ever sat down. He was also highly involved in his children's lives. I'd even say overprotective, Like a helicopter dad instead of the typical helicopter mom. Careless_welder_4048. How did he have time to cheat? OP answer. He only slept a few hours a night and moved at about 1,000,000 miles a minute. Everyone joked about it. Somehow he always had time to get up at 5 a.m., go surfing, do some work, take his kids to school, do some work, take his power nap, get coffee, pick his kids up after school and take them wakeboarding or some other sort of thing like that, do some more work, be at his kids' basketball game and so on and so forth. He literally never ever stopped. I was just another thing to help fill out his calendar to prevent him from getting bored. OP on the father's relationship with his ex-wife and their children. OP answer. I also don't think he and his wife had much of a relationship, although it wasn't quite as he described it to me. They lived in the same house, but I believe they lived pretty separate lives. He bought her a business to give her something to do and keep her busy. She was there most of the time. They didn't even go to their kids' activities together. He was always the one going. So I think that freed up time too. I don't think they liked being around each other, so she was happy to have him out of the house. She admitted to me that I wasn't the first affair he had and she knew about most of the time we were together. Another update on how stupid I am, or I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I won't rehash the whole thing here. My previous posts are on my profile. I got pregnant from an affair with a married guy. He wanted me to have an abortion. I decided I didn't want one. He turned mean. I promised to not name him as the father, legally, or to pursue any sort of child support. I moved away from where he and his family were located. I'm about 12 hours away from him now, back where my family is from. I haven't reached out to him in over 3 years since. His ex-wife reached out to me out of the blue via social media, initially claiming she wanted to connect with me so that our kids could know each other. When I politely declined for the time being, as her kids are teenagers and my son is a toddler and we live states apart, she revealed she was really reaching out on behalf of her ex-husband who had supposedly had a change of heart about being involved in our child's life after nearly dying in an accident. I did not engage with her any further after that. It all made me feel very uncomfortable. Later, I received a letter from him in the mail. He asked to be involved with our son, to provide for him, etc. It still felt weird. I mean, he turned really mean and didn't want anything to do with me or our baby and hadn't made any attempt to contact me in years, and I was not hiding. His wife was obviously able to find me on social media and you can find my address online. I felt like if he was serious, he'd take the steps to establish paternity legally. And that's what he did. Around 1.5 months ago we were ordered to submit DNA samples for a paternity test. It took around 5 weeks to find out what I already knew it'd say. But now things are stalled for another several weeks for the next step in the court process. I haven't talked to him at all during this whole thing. I didn't respond directly to his letter. I do have a lawyer and everything is basically going through him now. Then without any warning, he just showed up at my home last weekend. Just knocked on the door like it was nothing. Basically, this is his son and he doesn't want to wait another 6 weeks for the court to inevitably order us into some sort of custody mediation anyway. His words. Why can't I just talk to him? I told him he made me uncomfortable and him just showing up at my house really made me uncomfortable. Honestly, I don't know what made me so uncomfortable. The fact that he showed up unannounced like that, or the fact that I instantly felt the same attraction to him that I had when I was with him and I didn't want to feel that at all. In some weird way part of me felt happy to see him and then another part of me was disgusted that I was happy. He said he doesn't understand why we can't just talk about this. He's not trying to take my son away from me, he just wants to be involved in his life and to help provide for him like he should have been all along. He's sorry he wasn't there when he was born. He's sorry he reacted the way that he did when I didn't go along with his plans to take me on an abortion vacation. Why can't I believe that he just wants to be a dad to his kid? I guess I agree with him. Why can't I just accept that he has had a change of heart? I can't trust myself. I can't trust my own judgment. I feel like if I easily let him into my son's life I'm going to end up regretting it and be made a fool of somehow. I've already made so many mistakes when it comes to him. He says it's stupid of me to not try to work it out amongst ourselves first. I'm giving so much control to the court. I don't know whether to believe that or to think it's just his way of convincing me to do what he wants. I know he will get some sort of visitation and eventual custody. Maybe it would be better if we try to come to an agreement, but he had the ability to sway me so easily. I'm so stupid when it comes to him. Nobody else has ever made me feel so foolish in my life. I want my son to have a dad. I admit it's probably selfish of me to want to keep him away. I just keep imagining having to spend weeks or months apart from my child while he's living with his dad 12 hours away and I can't stand the thought of it. I'm just feeling sad, stupid, and defeated. Relevant comments. OP on if the father is actually divorced from his wife. OP answer, I checked the county records and they did actually get divorced. Mammoth_Mite 8171. At this point you need to trust your lawyer. Hopefully he is a good one. Make sure that your lawyer has all the facts, including how poorly he treated you when he found out you were pregnant. Do not communicate any more with your ex, especially since you know that you're incapable of making good decisions when he is involved. You may need to prepare yourself mentally that your ex is eventually going to play a role in your kid's life, as much as that sucks. Hopefully you can go after him for back child support. OP answer. My lawyer has any and all information that I possibly had to share. I am already preparing myself that he will likely have a role in my child's life. I mean, the change will be difficult for me and I honestly don't want anything to change. But I'm trying to focus on any shred of positive outcome this could have for my son. He deserves a dad. I wish it wasn't in this situation. I wish I had given him 2 loving parents in a stable relationship, the ideal. I wish I had at least given him a father who didn't live states away. I feel bad that my son has 2 lying cheaters for parents. I truly do feel so embarrassed about our behavior in a new way I did before, ever since my son was born. Other than that whole thing and the fact that he's apparently had affairs with multiple women according to his ex-wife, he actually seems like a good dad to his teenage kids. He was always very involved with them. I guess I'm just trying to cling to whatever positive things I can think of. He can also provide a lot more financially than I currently can. That's scary for me because I'm already turning it into some sort of competition between us in my head. Several points for him, none for me. Plus my son is also very shy. He doesn't do well if me or one of my parents isn't there with him. I'm just now getting him involved in more activities with other kids and safe, trusted adults, but he still just clings to me. My heart breaks when I think of him meeting a strange man he doesn't know and me not being there. I want to be there. Plus I think that's how things normally go for him, and to be perfectly honest that's how I used to be for him too. Just go along with what he wants. He was obviously expecting me when he showed up in person. He genuinely seemed surprised I didn't cave into his request right on the spot. The previous version of me probably would have. OP on how the father managed to find her address. OP answer. He sent me a letter in the mail previously. I googled myself and my address came up easily. Admittedly, I made no effort to hide myself after moving away. I didn't think I needed to. He had no interest in being involved with our baby and I promised to never contact him again. So I thought that was the end of it. His ex-wife told me he was in a bad accident when I talked to her. It's not too surprising based on his hobbies. He lives at like 200 miles per minute. According to her, she had to move back into their house to take care of him while he recovered. When he showed up here, he didn't look like somebody who had been in a life-threatening accident not too terribly long ago. He told me he's fully recovered and although he'll probably have back issues the rest of his life he's perfectly fine. OP on having a visitation plan with the father for her son. OP answer. My lawyer says that other than creating a graduated visitation plan based on the fact that my son doesn't know this man, the fact that he hasn't been involved in his child's life for the last 3 years won't mean much to the court. Their ultimate goal is for a child to have 2 parents. I screwed myself over by not naming him as the father at birth or trying to establish paternity in any way. Had I done that and he fought it, neglected to pay court-ordered child support, etc., then we could have a better case as far as abandonment goes. He is putting in the effort to establish paternity now, is willing to pay child support, so he says, and is presumably going to tell the court he wants to see his kid and this is going to reflect positively for him, despite not being involved for 3 years. New update. Since everyone got mad at me for posting a recap of my situation in my previous posts, I won't even go there. If you're interested in the backstory, you can read my previous posts. All I will say is that I have a 3-year-old son who was conceived in an affair I had with a married man. After initially making me promise to not contact him, to not name him as the father, and to not request child support, my child's father has been pursuing involvement in our son's life over the last several months. He lives states away and most recently he showed up at my house to try to convince me to work things out directly with him. Since the last time I posted, we've recently had a mediation session and he's met our son twice. At this time, he will have supervised visitation, with me present. Because he lives states away, he is required to come here to see our son. It will not be on a weekly basis due to the travel. He will see him during 2 weeks of the month, 2 times each week, for a total of 4 visits a month plus 2 video calls a month. This will last for 6 months. The next step will be for him to continue that schedule, but to have unsupervised visitation during which he cannot remove him from the area, for another 6 months. After a year, we agreed to have another mediation session to determine next steps, With the goal, his goal, of being able to have my son at his home for short overnights. I'm not even ready to discuss that. He's already suggesting I can come for the first few times. I don't like the sound of it at all. We also have the option to request another mediation before 1 year, and something tells me he's going to pull that. I also have an order for child support. While he is in agreement with paying child support, it will have to work through the court system before becoming official and for me to start getting the regular payment. He wrote me a large check in the meantime. I was hesitant to accept it. Not that I don't think my son deserves it, but now I'm just always worried I'll say or do the wrong thing legally, completely unknowingly, and shoot myself in the foot. Like, am I obligating myself and my son to anything by accepting this check? Can he somehow spin this against me? Of course he was not in favor of the 6-month plan, and while he does understand that my son should not just go off with a stranger upon first meeting him, he wishes we could speed it along a little more, but 6 months was what we were able to agree on. He wanted to fly us both to where he lived so he could spend a week or two getting to know our son, but I don't feel that's appropriate at this time. Perhaps in a few months, or around the holidays, depending on how things are going. It would be too much too soon. The initial 2 meetings went pretty much just as I thought they would. My son is extremely shy. He wanted to hide behind me most of the time. Then when he would venture out from behind me, as soon as his dad would say anything to him, he would scurry back behind me and just stare at his dad blankly without saying anything. He came out of his shell a little bit, however he has still not said a single word to his dad. He just pretends like his dad isn't there and only talks to me. I will say that his dad is being patient and understanding as far as that goes. If he's frustrated, he's not showing it. He did suggest that maybe our son needs to get out more, go to daycare more of even preschool instead of spending so much time with me and my parents. He's very delighted with how much our son looks like him and how much he favors him over me. The one thing that did bother me is that I already told him I wanted to be very careful and mindful of how we informed our son, this little barely 3-year-old boy, that this man complete stranger is his dad. He said sure, yeah. Then at the first meeting he introduced himself as dad. Since then I've been trying to help my son understand. Like, you know how your grandpa is my daddy, this guy is your daddy. It's so surreal to me that any of this is happening. I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for something to blow up in my face. Now it's just working on accepting our new reality. All of this change is hard and confusing for my son, and it's hard for me. Unless he really fucks up, I'm looking at eventually shared times with my son, spending school breaks and holidays at his dad's house, hours and hours away in another state. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will happen in the most likely reality. I just hope he stays committed. If he can be a good dad to my child, then my child deserves that, no matter how sad sharing him makes me. If he breaks my son's heart, that'll be another story, and I won't accept that so readily. Relevant comments. OP on the times when her son has to go visit his father and what the courts are deciding on. OP answer, they haven't ordered him to visit his father in his state, but eventually, that will probably happen. Talking elementary school age. Worldly promise 675. I hope it all works out as well as it can given the circumstances. Your son and his well-being is definitely top priority. The baby daddy seems really pushy and doesn't like boundaries, so it does not seem he's changed much. OP answer, he's used to getting his way. I'm doing my best to not just roll over but also learn to compromise. Imalela, are you concerned that he may also try to push the idea of reconciling romantically? It sounds like you are focused on your son and he's focused on getting his way. OP answer, I don't know. He hasn't really given me that impression. He's given me compliments. He's tried reminding me of some of the good times we had together. But I see that as all part of his schmoozing to just get me to do what he wants, not to get back together with me. OP on getting a therapist for her son. OP answer, yes, I'm working on finding a therapist for him. I realize I should have started that process before this all went into action. We live with my wife's friend after her abusive relationship. Recently, I've noticed that she's intentionally trying to get close to me. I, 33, have been married to my wife, 31, for 6 years, and we have a 3-year-old kid. We are very happy together, and I am lucky to be married to a very kind and smart woman. My wife's best friend Anna, fake name for anonymity, has been living with us for the last 6 months. I wanted to talk about Anna to give a full context of why I'm making my decision. Anna has been my wife's best friend since school days. Anna was living in the city with her boyfriend, and we live in the suburbs of that city. They seemed happy together and were in a relationship for 2 years. However, my wife noticed bruises on Anna's hand last year and asked her about it. Initially, Anna dismissed it as work-related injuries. My wife kept on probing, and we learned that Anna was in an extremely toxic and abusive relationship. Her boyfriend lost his job last year and became extremely controlling and abusive towards her. He constantly accused her of cheating. Anna denies it, made her link her phone messenger to his computer and started micromanaging finances. There was an incident of domestic violence that was the final straw in my wife, and I had to rush to the hospital to look after Anna. Since Anna's parents are mostly absent from her life, my wife asked me if Anna can stay with us for a few days. We are 3 people living in a 4-bedroom house and have 2 spare guest rooms. I of course agreed to it and told her that Anna can stay with us as long as she wants. I think the incident completely broke Anna and she would just start crying randomly and completely shut down. It was really sad to see Anna in that state. She had to leave her job due to mental issues and stayed at home in the room all day. My wife is very kind and took care of Anna like she was family and made sure she felt loved. Anna is also thankful to my wife and I to help her in her worst time, and helps around the house and with our kid, though we never leave him alone with Anna. Anna, now is coming back to normal, smiles sometimes and has started looking for a job again. Now on to the incident. Last Friday, my wife and I went to work as normal and dropped our son at daycare. I had a doctor's appointment at noon and came straight home from there as I did not have a lot of work in the office. I made some lunch, and then went to my room to sit in my bed and reply to all the emails. Anna was in her room, and I did not talk to her after I came home. Around 2 p.m., I heard Anna's room door open and her walking in the hallway. Suddenly, our bedroom door opened and Anna walked in topless and just in her underwear. I was shocked and not sure how long I was staring at her. But after a few seconds I blurted out, "I am sorry." And she quickly covered herself with her hands. She was apologetic and started explaining herself. She said she just wanted to borrow my wife's clothes because her laundry was unwashed. It was super embarrassing to have a conversation with her in that state and I looked away. She again apologized and then went out of the bedroom. The incident lasted less than 2 minutes. After a while, she again came back into our bedroom, fully dressed, and apologized for the incident. She said it was really embarrassing and she did not know anyone would be home. I said it's okay and I should have told her I was back early from the office when I came home. She asked me to not mention the incident to my wife. She said she felt embarrassed when she walked around the hallway without clothes and that I saw her in that state. I said it's okay and let's forget about it. I have not told my wife about the incident and it's been 5 days. It was just a benign incident, but I somehow feel guilty about the whole thing. I feel more guilty that I am lying to my wife by omission of the truth. However, I feel that if my wife takes it the wrong way, it may strain her relationship with Anna, and I really feel bad for Anna for what she had to go through. I also do not want to make Anna uncomfortable in our house by telling my wife about her barging into our bedroom in that state. Am I the AH in this case for not talking about this incident to my wife? I am afraid that if Anna tells it to her first, it will make me look really bad and guilty. However, if I tell her, I do not want her to blame Anna for any of this and not help her in time of her need. Can someone please help me on how I can tell my wife about this? Relevant comments. Multiple Redditors advised OP to talk with his wife and not keep it as a secret from her if the incident was really bothering him. OP's reply. Thanks. This is really helpful. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I have read that in these situations, the victim's trust in men is very fragile. Would it be horrible if I told my wife after I told Anna I would not mention this incident? Should I talk about this with Anna first? Comment 1. You would be the asshole if you do not tell your wife. Never keep secrets as a team with your house guest against your wife. Comment 2. Anna needs to tell her PDQ. She also needs to stay out of your bedroom. Do not keep the secret, that's what will destroy your relationship. I'll try to give Anna a pass, but some small part of me thinks she knows what she's doing and asking you to keep it a secret is part of that. Update 1. I wrote a post yesterday about an embarrassing situation that happened between my wife's best friend who is currently staying at our house. I was not sure how to bring it up to my wife and you guys really helped me a lot in understanding the urgency of telling my wife. I also got some cool ideas on how to bring up the subject without making it awkward for anyone. For everyone saying Anna was doing it on purpose, I did not agree with it as I'm an extremely average-looking person and women don't chase me. However, things since last night have been just crazy and I think I'm spiraling a bit. Sorry for the long post. So I decided to tell my wife last night as soon as she came home about the incident. I like the idea of jokingly bringing up casually so that we both can laugh about it and then forget it. Last night, when my wife came home, I made sure I stayed in our bedroom. I asked Anna if she could stay with my kid downstairs. As my wife was changing, I asked her if Anna still borrowed her clothes. Anna had to borrow them regularly when she first moved, long story. My wife told me yes and she has told Anna she can take anything from her closet if she needs it. I asked my wife if Anna told her about the funny incident from Friday. My wife said no, and I told her the whole story about how I came home early, and Anna came in the room almost naked to get her clothes, and how embarrassing it was for both of us. As my wife was listening to this, she completely froze and turned pale. She started murmuring in Spanish, which is her and Anna's native language. I don't understand Spanish really well, but I understood the words hombre casado and otra vez. I asked her if she is okay, and she sat next to me and asked me to explain everything in detail. I just told her it was nothing and she must have not heard me coming in. I was trying to laugh it off, but my wife had water in her eyes. I kept on telling her it was not a big deal, but she kept on asking me for more details. She asked me how Anna talks to me. I told her that Anna barely talks to me since she moved in except few words here and there. My wife then asked me about 3 weeks ago when my wife had gone to visit her parents for 4 days. Anna did not want to go with her and stayed back. I told her that Anna was just acting normal. She or I would cook dinner after I got home from work while the other took care of the kid. The only thing different was Anna generally spending her evening in her room. However, when I was sitting in the living room watching TV after the kids slept, Anna came and sat on the sofa next to me but did not talk to me. I asked her if she wanted me to change the channel or stream to something she likes, and she just said she wanted to get out of her room. However, she did not flirt with me or do anything unusual. I kept on telling my wife that it was just an accident, and I really did not understand why she reacted so emotionally to it. My wife refused to answer and just said okay and agreed with me. However, she told me I should have told her about the incident sooner and should not keep any secrets from her and gave me a big lecture. I told her that I did not think it was a big deal and thought Anna would tell her, but glad I brought it up. After dinner, my wife massaged Anna to join us, and she came out. While talking, my wife brought up the incident and told Anna that I mentioned about the incident and she does not need to feel embarrassed. Such things happen when we are all in the same house and it is not a big deal. Anna was firstly taken by surprise, but then told my wife she was just scared to tell her because she thought my wife would judge her because of her past. My wife gave her a stare and she quickly changed the topic. At night, I asked my wife what the hell was going on. I told her to please not keep any secrets from me, and if she does not tell me I will directly ask Anna about what her past has got to do with anything. My first guess was Anna might have had a thing for me before we got married or something. But my wife was very reluctant to answer and kept on trying to change the subject and cuddle. However, I kept being persistent and she finally spilled the beans. Apparently, when Anna was in her early 20s, she was in a relationship with a married coworker who was twice her age. It was a kind of sugar daddy relationship, and he told her that he was in an open relationship, or that's what Anna told my wife, and he would leave his wife in a few years once the kids go to college. This makes sense now, because Anna is very pretty, like Miss USA level, and I never understood why she was single for most of the time I knew her. She eventually ended that relationship and started dating her boyfriend Jim, who turned out to be an abusive asshole. My wife said she suspects Anna was still involved with the older guy while in relationship with Jim, which explains why he kept on accusing her of cheating. That is why my wife became emotional when I told her what Anna did because she was worried Anna has no boundaries regarding married men. My wife said that Anna always looks up to us and praises me for being such a loyal partner and how lucky my wife is. My wife was worried initially when she brought Anna home, but her actions from the time when my wife was away clearly show that she respects the boundaries, and it must have been an accident. My wife told me she is grateful I let Anna live in our house and observe what a healthy and happy marriage looks like. This morning was even more weird. I got up early as I could not sleep well and went down for a cup of coffee. After 5 minutes, Anna walked into the kitchen and told me she was relieved my wife did not overreact to Friday's incident. She said I'm a good husband and gave me a hug and peck on the cheeks. She has never hugged me in the last 6 months. She seemed to be in a happy mood and was making small talk with me while having coffee. I cannot believe my wife did not tell me such a huge detail about Anna for all these years. It's completely possible she cheated all through the relationship with Jim, and my wife is just covering for her all along. She even kept it a secret from me, after giving me a lecture about how we should never have secrets. And I don't know what else she is hiding. Everything just seems very confusing at this point. I feel angry at my wife for lying to me all these years for Anna. I also now see Anna differently. I am also worried that me trivializing the incident to my wife might have sent wrong signals to Anna. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Anna needs to go before her own messed up issues lead her to further mess with your marriage. She was testing OP again with the hug and kiss on the cheek, and I didn't see OP writing that he told his wife about that new development. She's gotta go before she pushes to the next level. OP's reply, yes. I am also a bit mad at myself for trying to casually describe the event as some of the Redditors advised and not talk about the fact that she was in the room for a lot longer. I was worried that my wife would be pissed at me. Now I wish I told her all the details and did not make it sound trivial. My wife now trusts Anna and I am getting more uncomfortable. Multiple Redditors urge her OP to tell his wife about the hug and kiss. OP's reply. I agree with the hug and kiss part here. It is not uncommon for my wife's friends to kiss me on the cheek when they meet me. I am not from that culture, and initially it used to make me uncomfortable. But something about today morning with Anna waking up so early, coming down in her bedclothes and sitting with me rubbed me the wrong way. I am not able to point out exactly what, but she was acting differently. For lack of a better word, she looked happy for the first time since she moved into our place. I have not told my wife yet. Things have been a bit icy between us since yesterday, as I am still upset at her for keeping secrets from me for all these years. I know it's Anna's personal life, but I feel a bit betrayed that for all these years, she knew Anna was with a married man and never even mentioned it to me. We had a talk in the evening and she apologized, but then we both dropped the subject and took our son to the playground as the weather was finally nice and had an amazing time. However, I plan to tell her as soon as we both are alone at night. As I said in the comments, I do not think she will mind since it's not uncommon for her friends to give a quick peck on cheeks when saying hello. In fact, I was not comfortable with it at the start, and now I am used to it. Her mom, cousins, friends, everyone kisses me. There are also weird rules, where married women like my wife just hug, but non-married friends give a kiss, unless you're family. Also, only girls give a kiss, but men don't kiss girls on cheeks. I learned that the hard way. I am not Latino, Colombian to be exact, and maybe someone who is familiar can explain the rules here so people who don't know the tradition won't misinterpret it as anything sexual. Also, I never keep anything from my wife, and hence I felt so guilty about my actions over the last week. I am sure I will mention it to her before the end of the day. Update 2. I wrote a few posts a month ago regarding my wife's friend Anna accidentally walking into our bedroom topless to get my wife's clothes while I was in the room. We addressed the issue the next day, but I learned more about Anna's past and why my wife was uncomfortable due to the situation. My wife and I talked to Anna and told her it was not a big deal and we all decided to move on from the incident. After I posted the update, a lot of you advised me to tell my wife about Anna hugging and kissing me, on the cheek, the following morning. I felt uncomfortable with this situation and the comments really made me nervous. Most of you were reading my post as a telenovela or the start of a porn movie and the comments were really not helping calm me down. You may not like this part, but I just decided to get off Reddit for a while and try to think through the situation on how to tell my wife. I felt that my wife treats Anna as family and just like her sisters. I have known my wife's sisters since they were in their early teens. I have had similar incidents happen with them all the time, and I never made a big deal out of it. There were so many times we had to tell them to keep their tops on when sitting in our backyard pool area when they were younger, and God knows how allergic they are to wearing pants around the house. However, I just treat them as they are my sisters. I decided I need to do the same with Anna and treat her like my wife's sisters. I also wanted to communicate that clearly to both Anna and my wife so they don't get in such uncomfortable situations anymore. That night, I was talking to my wife and decided to put a positive spin on the incident that happened early in the morning. I asked my wife if she noticed anything different with Anna. I told her that she woke up early with me today and greeted me with a hug and kiss and also helped me make breakfast. I told her that I am glad she finally looks happy and is returning back to her old self and how proud I am of my wife that she is such a kind-hearted person who helped a friend in need. My wife seemed happy with my comment and started saying that she also noticed Anna was chattier in the morning and was cleaning her room and talking about applying for jobs again. I told my wife that I feel Anna is like one of her sisters and I'm happy she also considers us as family and is comfortable around us. The next few weeks were great. Anna started waking up early in the morning around the time I woke up, 5 a.m. We always had coffee together and had nice chats. She also helped me with breakfast and getting lunch boxes ready. She asked me if she can join my gym and if I can teach her some resistance training exercises. Her therapist told her it would be good for her to work out. So, we started going to the gym 3-4 times a week in the evening before picking my son from daycare. It's nice to have a regular gym partner and someone to geek out about the daily protein intake. I also told her when we were cooking that she is so much less annoying than my Sills and I wish she was my Sil. She just smiled at the comment. Anna has already had a few interviews and also contacted her old job who seem interested in hiring her back. She told us 2 weeks ago that she will be looking for apartments. We already saw 2 apartments in our suburb and hopefully should finalize that soon. My wife jokingly told her that her dating prospects are going to be bleak if she stays in our suburb. But Anna told us that she is going to stay away from relationships at least for a while now and work on herself. Plus, she enjoys our gym and loves spending time with our son. About the hugging and kissing, I think I have decoded it. A hug from Anna is normal and I get one every morning. However, I think she kisses people on the cheeks as a way to say thank you. Things are really looking positive for Anna and we are very happy that she was able to get through a bad patch in her life. She had isolated herself from everyone after the incident 7 months ago. However, she plans to join my wife and son on her summer trip to my in-laws in a few weeks, unless there are any updates on the employment front. I just hope for the best for her and I'm glad that I did not make a big deal out of the situation. I am also glad to have such a kind and understanding wife who is there for her friend in need. Relevant comments. Comment 1. If this works out for you guys, that's great. For me it's such a huge red flag, that she wakes up same time as you, joined the same gym as you and wants to spend a lot of time with you plus is looking at places to rent near you. Maybe it's because I've seen too many stories like that end in a horrible way. Again, if it works out for you guys it's great, to me it's one red flag after another and seems like a start of something fishy. Comment 2, I felt uncomfortable reading how much she's inserted herself in your life. There's still red flags waving and you're either stupidly oblivious or you're enjoying the attention that you choose to be oblivious to. Comment 3, you honestly still don't see it, do you? Waking up early at the same time as you, going to the gym with you and cooking with you. She's spending an awful lot of time with you. And the difference is she isn't one of your SILs but your wife's friend. A friend that has a past going after married men. You sound naive to not at least put down some fucking boundaries with her. I don't even get why you won't do that. It's so stupid. On every post people kept warning you and you refused to listen. I hope for your wife's sake, that Anna doesn't try anything. But remember that if she does and your marriage dies because of it, you and your unwillingness to handle it, will be the sole fucking reason. Comment 4. Oh sure, this is going to end well. We won't do the immediate attack head on because he won't fall for that. So we do the slow build. A little bit here, a little more there. As soon as she gets her own place, things are going to change. I don't understand how people cannot see what is happening in front of their eyes. Poor dude is going to be in her bed and wondering what happened. Comment 5. I have no dog in this fight and I'm wildly uncomfortable with how much Anna has inserted herself into your life and your daily routine and how you have let her do so. It does not come across as innocent, she has no reason to hug or kiss you ever. Why is the apartment hunting a wee thing? Why are you talking down about your wife's relatives to this person? Why are you spending so much of your time every day with this woman? You are having an emotional affair with this woman. And it is not going to take much for it to turn physical and you will be back here saying you have no idea how this happened. You need to get back to doing these things with your wife and this woman needs to not be part of your life or you will be very sorry in the end. She knows exactly what she's doing and she is playing the long game. Oh, and now reading previous posts I see Anna has gone after married men before. OMG. You really can't be this clueless. My boyfriend quit his job without telling me, and now he refuses to look for another job. I'm tired of paying for everything. My boyfriend, 33M, quit his job last year without telling me. I only found out 2 days before the rent was due. We split everything 50/50ths, when I asked him for his part of the rent. When I asked, he simply told me he quit because he was tired of working at that place. Since then, I've been paying for everything. Including rent, food, gas, bills, and anything he needs. I had to work 2 jobs while going to school for a while. It was hard. But I finally finished school a couple months ago and I found my dream job. I make enough to live comfortably, even take care of my BF and still have money for saving. However, I still want him to get a job to support himself because I think as an adult, he needs a job. But I feel like he relies on me too much and he thinks since my job pays well, he doesn't have any reason to work. He always says things like, you make good money now, so maybe you could buy me my dream car. Or, you should open a business for me to run. It bothers me a lot. I don't mind supporting my partner financially if there's a legit reason that prevents him from working, but it's not the case. He spends most of his time playing games, meeting up with friends, or just at home watching movies. I still have to do all the chores and take care of our dogs. His family thinks that he's been working to take care of me so that I can finish school, which is not true. Now they think I was able to finish school and got a good job all because of him. I don't even want to explain to them. I just want him to get a job and have a future. When I tried to talk to him, he told me I'm not supportive and now that I have a good job, I look down on him. What should I do? Is it even worth it to try to talk some sense into him? I don't want to start dating at this age but I feel like I can't keep doing this. Edit. Many people have asked why him? Why did I stay for years? What did I see in him? So I just want to answer it here. We started off pretty normal. We split everything 50/50ths, and I had no problem with that. But throughout the years, he started showing his true self. I was in school and school was the most important thing to me at that point, so I invested all my time and energy into it. I was in a PhD program, so I had stipend, around 30K/YR, which was enough for myself but not for two people. After he quit his job, I was very stressed out, but I had to focus on school and tried to do everything I could to survive. I didn't have time to really think about my personal life, and I also didn't want to go through any changes in life, so I just let it be. In addition, he guilt trips me a lot, so I feel bad for him. But now that I have a stable job, I have time to really think about my future. I don't see myself being with him long term. I don't think it would be as easy as, hey, let's break up, because I know he wouldn't let it go that easy. But I'll start planning to get out, maybe ask some friends for support. His name is not on the lease, so I'll stay where I am and he'll have to move. Relevant comments. Comment 1. You worked 2 jobs while in school to support someone who happily sits on their ass not contributing. Not even cleaning or caring for the pets. Why? Why have you accepted this? And the worst part is he lets his family think that he's supporting you. So he actually has enough sense to know that what he's doing is frowned up. You don't want to start dating at this age. You mean 31? So you'd rather be 31 taking care of a stay-at-home boyfriend who contributes literally nothing. How is that a better outlook at 31? OP's reply, I think it's because I was too busy figuring my life out and trying to do everything I could to survive. All I did was work and go to school. I didn't really have time to think about my personal life. Now that I have a stable job, I have time to think about my life more and more. I need to end this and take care of myself. TBH, I'm not even sure how to date anymore, but I guess I'll try and hopefully able to find someone. I will have a talk with him this afternoon to tell him it's time to end things and he needs to move out. He will probably give me the "my life is miserable" talk, again. But I think reading all these comments makes me realize I should feel bad for myself and not for him. I'm sure once he moves back to live with his family, they will reach out to me to tell me how good he has been treating me, and how he helped me through school. They've done this before when I told them things weren't working for us. I will tell them everything this time. Comment 2. You were in a PhD program. You are intellectually smart, apply that to your emotional and financial intelligence. If you were a classmate when this happened, I can tell you the other grad students would ask why you were still with him after a grace period of a couple of months. Leave and rebuild your life. OP's reply. I haven't told any of my family and friends about the situation because I'm kinda ashamed of it. My friends would probably think I can't be this stupid. But 2 of my very close friends did tell me that I deserve better, just based on the way he treats me in front of them. I will have a talk with him this afternoon, and a couple of my friends will be waiting outside, in case he gets physical or refuses to leave. Wish me luck. Update 1. It's been 2 months since I posted about my situation on this sub, and I just want to give you an update of how things went after I made that post. Before I go into the details, I just want to say I really appreciate everyone here. After I resolved everything, I occasionally would go back to my original post and read the comments to remind myself that I've done the right thing. After posting on here, I went home from work that day and asked my friends to come over but stay in the parking lot while I sort things out with my now ex-BF. Before I could even start the conversation, he told me his friend got a new car recently and how I should get him a car since I can afford it. I got really upset and told him he could have got himself a car if he was working. I told him how stressful it has been for me with him not working and fully relying on me. He started the "my life is already miserable and you're not being supportive" talk. I was sick of it. So I said I wanted to end things here and he needs to move out ASAP. As expected, he got upset and threw a tantrum. He was yelling, throwing stuff around, and when he realized I was being dead serious, he started threatening to hit and kill my dogs. I jumped in between him and the dogs to stop him from harming them. Then he pushed me and grabbed me by my neck. I was able to get him off of me, put the dogs into a room, and called my friends to tell them to come in and call the police. He was trying to hit me but my friends got there in time. I think he got scared when he saw my friends showed up, so he backed down but still verbally told them to get out of the way or he would hit them too. The police came. They took him away and told me he wouldn't be able to come into the apartment anymore. He had to move but would need to be escorted by the police if he wanted to grab his stuff later. It was a horrible experience, but it showed me that I've done the right thing. I thought that was the end of everything. But his auntie called me when she found out, and tried to gaslight me saying that he didn't do anything wrong and I was just upset, so I called the police. I told myself that I no longer have to deal with this bullshit, so I told her to leave me alone and hung up. His family would continue to harass me but stopped when I threatened to report to the police. I continue to pay the rent and bills like how I've always been doing. The only thing that's changed is I'm now so much happier. I'm the happiest I've ever been in years. I just got a promotion last week. I've been spending time enjoying life, with the extra money I have since I no longer have to pay for his expenses. As for my ex, he's moved in with his aunt. I got a protection order so we are not in contact at all. Relevant comments. Many people congratulate OP and wish her well. OP responds, "Thank you. It feels great to wake up in the morning and not have to worry about what kind of crap he is going to give me today. And OMG, the extra saving that I have since I'm not longer financially responsible for a full-grown adult. Thank you. I've realized that all the uncertainties that I had before really don't mean anything. My life is only getting better and I've received all the support I need from friends and family and people on Reddit too." Comment 1, how long were you in that relationship? OP's reply, I was in that relationship for 8 years. Comment 2, I hope you changed the locks. And why didn't you tell his family about his refusal to work? I hate that they think of him as the victim now, and that you used him to finance your studies and then dropped him. OP's reply, I haven't mentioned this, but his family is the type of people who it doesn't matter what he does, he's always right to them. I knew even if I told them that he refused to work, his family would still defend him and make excuses for his behavior. It has happened with other things before. But his family can take care of him all they want now. I didn't put this in the post because I didn't want the post to get too long, but when his auntie first called me, she told me if I kicked him out he wouldn't have anywhere to stay because she couldn't let him stay with her. I knew she was just saying that so that I would feel bad and wouldn't kick him out. So I told her it's none of my business and he needs to figure it out himself. Guess what? He moved right into his aunt's house after he was released. Comment 3, OP, will you be able to move? Given he seems unhinged, what are the chances of him coming back in a later date? He already has escalated to violence and seems like he has gotten his rotten morals from his family who enables him and may do the same. I read way too much RA and Baru hearing how bad things escalates. I hope you're able to do the following: filing a restraining order and documenting all instances of the abuse that has escalated. Consider moving and keep the information where you move to the down low. Plus a change of place may do wonders for your mental health. Invest in a Ring doorbell cam. It's for your safety and the dog's. Alert your rental, app or property that he is not allowed unless on a scheduled time to pick up his stuff. Find a safe space for you and your animals, in case he escalates again. Anyone who has gone to his manic level of harming you and animals will repeat until they find another obsession. He is an abuser and he's at the stage he lost control and is going berserk but may also be biding his time. Better be overly cautious than not. I hope you be fully free of him. OP's reply. I'm planning to move to a new place soon, and it's nicer. And closer to my work too, since I can now afford it with the extra money I have. I have no doubt he's capable of harming me and I'm honestly not sure if he would leave me alone. I'm considering filing a restraining order against his family also, because even though they've stopped coming to my place to try to gaslight and guilt trip me, they still try to call me sometimes, with different numbers since I blocked their numbers already. I just ordered a Ring camera and I'm also going to move to a new place soon. He doesn't even know where I work because he didn't care. He'd never taken me to work or even asked what company I work for. He only asked about my salary when I told him I got a new job. I was sad that he didn't care, but now I'm glad that he doesn't know much about me besides where I live. Comment 4, I hope you read this and seriously consider it. We are attracted to what is normal to us, not necessarily what is good for us. You need to spend some time with a therapist unpacking what in your past taught you to accept being used. Women, especially, are often taught to be people pleasers, even to the point of their own detriment. I hope you spend some time rewiring yourself to only accept respectful, loving treatment. My heart breaks that you went through this. I sincerely wish you well. OP's reply. I'm spending a lot of time taking care of myself. I have had a couple therapy sessions in the past couple weeks. The whole incident was traumatizing to me. I'm a lot happier but still need lots of time to heal. Update. It's been a year since I called the police on my ex-BF after he hurt me and threatened to hurt my dogs. I hope the same thing doesn't happen to anyone, but if you're currently in a similar relationship, I hope this post will help you realize good things will come after you stand up for yourself. After my ex was taken by the police, I dealt with some harassment from his family, but they eventually left me alone. I moved closer to my job in basically a different city that's 30 minutes away from my old apartment. I took some time to heal and went on vacation by myself. It was great. I finally look forward to coming home and spending time with my dogs. One of them passed away from cancer a couple months ago. About 6 months after the incident, I met someone. He's a great person, and for the first time in a long time, someone treats me with love and respect. I'm very happy at the moment. I've learned to set boundaries and expectations early on to avoid being in the same situation again. Now to my ex's case. Yesterday, I got a call from the prosecutor's office. To be honest, I totally forgot about the case and I thought there's nothing else to follow up on. But they called to inform me that they'll be pressing charges and asked if I would be okay to testify. I said yes. It'll be hard for me to go to court and talk about the incident if he's right there, because even though I've completely moved on with my life, I can still feel the fear when I heard about the case. I'm somewhat still traumatized by the whole thing, but I think he needs to be responsible for his actions, especially after his auntie tried to defend his actions by blaming me. It really sucks that I have to go through all of that to end a toxic and abusive relationship, but I got out somewhat safely and I can't imagine what my life would be if I stayed. It was a hard time, but it's worth it. Things are definitely better and I'm surrounded by people who truly love me and appreciate me. Simple and little things in life truly make me happy. Like how my BF got me bubble tea and prepared dinner for me when I had a hard day at work last week. I can't believe just more than a year ago, I thought a day without an argument was already a good day. Relevant comments. Commenters were overwhelmingly proud and supportive of OOP in leaving and encouraged her to testify against her ex. Here are a sampling of those comments. Comment 1, good for you leaving that toxic situation. The exact thing happened to me last year as well. I was in a relationship with a toxic ex and I finally stood up for myself and ended the relationship. We had to love together until we figured out the living situation since unfortunately both our names were on the lease. The way I got out was by calling the police after he swung a soundbar at me. I'm still traumatized about it to this day. I'm in therapy for the things he did and said to me. He pleaded guilty, which I'm so glad that this nightmarish chapter can finally be over. OP's reply. I'm glad you were able to get out before things got worse. It's a very traumatizing experience, but therapy does help. I hope you have a good support system and are around people who care about you and understand your experience. Comment 2. You may want to reach out to the victim advocate and see if the prosecutor's office, or anyone else affiliated with the court, has an emotional support dog that you can have with you when you testify. I was pleasantly surprised that a small county near me had that for a person I work with when she had to testify against a family member. It helped her feel more calm and protected going into testifying. Am I the A for getting upset with my wife for secretly having an abortion after I clearly stated I didn't want children? I have been happily married to my wife, Clara, for around 3 years now. I love this woman to pieces. I don't want to get sentimental, but she truly is my other half and I cannot see myself with another woman, even now. Before we got married, I made my stance on children clear. I didn't want any. She agreed at the moment and I thought that was that. About a year and a half into our marriage, she brings up the question of children again. She asks me if I want kids. I say no, I don't. She hums and we go back to doing what we did before. It wasn't a conversation so much as it was an odd question this time around, but I didn't think anything of it. We had a very robust sex life but always took the necessary precautions. She has the implant and I use a condom around 90% of the time, so I wasn't worried. Her bookshelf recently broke, so I ordered a new one. I had wanted to build it as a surprise and put her books up on it for when she came home. While going through them, I noticed an old journal of hers. I immediately smiled and flipped through it. When we were in college, she'd carry it around. It was a future planning notebook or sorts. If she wanted something in life, she'd draw out exactly what she envisioned, add clip-ins, the whole 9 yards. Manifestation, if you will. She had shown me it in college after declaring that she wanted to pursue her doctorate, and I remember being stunned at the attention to detail. I mean, we were only sophomores and she knew exactly what she wanted to do, what she wanted to study and where she would take herself. It made me feel out of depth. I liked it. Anyway, I flipped through the journal, reminiscing about the past. I hadn't expected there to be any new entries, at least not anything recent that I hadn't experienced with her. But as I opened it up, I saw something I never thought I'd see. It was a section dedicated to pregnancy and baby prep. She had researched prenatal vitamins, OB-GYNs in our area, had images of cradles, etc. It was only 2 pages, but I remember feeling so sick. In my head, there was only one reason she'd put that in a journal like this. She wanted kids. Naturally, I was torn up. I kept telling myself I'd been upfront about what I wanted and if she hadn't, that was her fault. But the thought that she'd secretly been suffering because of me, that she was holding herself back from the life she wanted to please me, I couldn't stand it. I confronted her about it as soon as we came home, and I found out the situation was a lot worse than I thought. Clara did indeed want kids, but claimed she wanted our relationship more and was okay with compromise. I asked her a million times if she was sure. I really wanted her to be honest and not feel like she had to hold anything back. She insisted that not having children wasn't a deal breaker for her, but I kept pushing. I couldn't understand why she'd put something that wasn't that important to her in that journal. In the midst of our conversation, she dropped the bomb. She told me she had an abortion a year and a half ago. Offered up the information like I should have been relieved. Like it was the proof she needed to convince me that she meant what she had said about children not being a deal breaker. I can't describe what I felt at that moment. What I'm still feeling. What I can say is that I have never blown up at my wife the way I did that night. I didn't put my hands on her. I would never put my hands on her, but it was not a pretty exchange. I just remember feeling hurt that she hadn't consulted me on such an important decision. That she went and had such a life-altering procedure without discussing it with me. That I didn't even fucking notice that it happened. I mean, those things have side effects, right? She would have been bedridden for days afterwards, in physical and emotional pain. How could I not have seen the signs? I'm still beating myself up about it. I remember her asking me if I wanted kids, but nothing about her emotional state for the rest of that week when she would have had the procedure done. How much can I really claim to care about her? I don't want children, I still don't. But I'd rather chew my left arm off than make her have an abortion, even more so now after she's told me she isn't really against having kids the way I am. I'd happily raise a kid if it meant she didn't need to go through something so drastic. I've been staying with my sister for the last week and a half. I needed space to think, so I left. I want to see her, to ask if she's okay, but I don't know what to do or say. I'm still unbelievably angry at her and at myself. I don't want to yell at her again. I think the first time around scared her pretty badly, and I don't want to repeat that. My sister thinks I'm being petty, punishing my wife for something I would have agreed with regardless. But I wouldn't have fucking agreed. I don't know. Relevant comments. OP on not considering of prioritizing his wife's preferences when she is prioritizing his decisions. Comment 1. OP. To clarify, I never once said this. If that's how my post came across, let me clear it up. If she came to me as asked to start trying for a kid, in other words, to go off birth control and stop using condoms, my answer would be no. I've always been firm in that. She's never pushed the issue, but no amount of begging would entice me to plan to have a child. Having an unplanned child, on the other hand, wasn't something we discussed. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20ths, but that doesn't help much here. Update. I woke up to lots amount of comments and outright hate, so I thought I'd clear a few things up. A lot of you were concerned about me snoping in Clara's journal. I met this woman when I was 6 years old. We had experienced over half of what she had written down in that notebook together. She's been letting me read her entries routinely since college, though I would read them more often back then. Like I said, I found her decisiveness incredibly attractive. But college was 6-7 years ago and times have changed. I'm not sure if she has other journals, but her use of this specific one died down as we got older, and so did my readership. I felt no qualms about picking it up and reading it that day because I quite frankly never have. This was not the first time I read that journal without her present, as I've been given express permission to do so. It was meant to be a quick trip down memory lane. I had no idea she had added more things, let alone pregnancy planning. She keeps all her old journals, sketchbooks, etc., in the same area, and this book was in that pile. You should have gotten a vasectomy. I'm not discussing my reasons for not wanting kids here, but I did discuss them thoroughly with Clara before we got married. Our reasons for not wanting children were very similar based on that initial conversation, but I guess hers wavered as time went on. How that turned me into an evil dictator that refused to hear her opinions out, I'll never understand. But I guess that's Reddit for you? I didn't get a vasectomy because I'm not sure that I won't want kids 10-15 years down the line. I am positive I don't want them at the current moment, but I'm 27. Opinions and circumstances change. Regardless of its reversibility, it's marketed as a permanent surgery. Vasectomies are covered by my health insurance, but reversals are not. It simply made no sense to invest in something I wasn't sure could be undone if I didn't want it anymore, not when Clara and I were taking the necessary precautions to avoid pregnancy otherwise. She got on birth control way before we started having sex. I had absolutely nothing to do with that decision. As far as I know, she's quite happy with it. The chances of pregnancy with the implant are less than 1%, even less when using condoms as well. We talked about the decision together and ultimately decided a vasectomy wasn't the right choice. Someone actually went as far as to say that because I didn't get my vas deferens cinched, an unexpected pregnancy was inevitable. A 0.5% chance and inevitable are two vastly different things. You guys do realize that vasectomies aren't 100% effective either, right? Unless you're pushing for abstinence, I really don't want to hear it. We also don't go raw unless we both agree to it, which I would never pressure her to do. You verbally abused her. Clara and I both grew up in shitty homes. Our parents yelled and were extremely combative. After growing up in that environment, we agreed to avoid that kind of behavior in our relationship, and we do our best to keep to that. I have never raised my voice at her before this argument. I'm more on the timid side, so I imagine it was a shock for her to see me so angry. She also just doesn't do well with yelling in general. It wasn't my words, so much as it was my tone. Should I have raised my voice? No, but I'm not an infallible robot. My comment about not putting my hands on her was to draw conclusions away from physical violence. Clearly it wasn't taken that way and had the opposite effect. The exchange was heated on both sides, lots of things were said. It was the worst disagreement we have ever had, and we have been together for close to a decade, close friends for even longer. That being said, I still think it was on the tamer side of the overall spectrum, relative to other people. That spectrum might be a bit skewed due to my childhood, but take that as you will. You're a dick for leaving her for a week and a half. To be fully clear, this was a mutually respected decision. I told her I needed space to think. She suggested I take it outside the house. Granted, she wasn't the happiest when she said it, but we had just finished a heated argument. We texted the entire time I was at my sister's place. Very dull and mundane conversation, mostly pleasantries, but I didn't just abandon her. We weren't speaking audibly, but we weren't in contact. I don't know how else to phrase that. Things were just tense and very different from our usual level of interaction. Everything was surface level. We would check to make sure the other ate, showered, whatever else, but that was it. There was no continuation of our discussion while we were apart. We were both taking the time to make sure we were in the right headspace to have a proper conversation, as is common for our relationship. It just took me a bit longer to get there. She wouldn't have been bedridden. Abortions aren't that deep. I'll concede to the physical aspect of this. I've often heard them described as a bad period, and a lot of the women in my life tend to tap out during their monthlies, which is what I based my assumption on. I accept that it was incorrect. Though I'm not sure if I should, because half of you agreed with my take in the post, condemning me for not noticing, and the other half told me I was overreacting. Again, I guess that's Reddit for you. More importantly, I will not agree on the general take on the emotional aspect. At the time, I still did not believe Clara genuinely wanted to have an abortion after hearing her updated stance on having kids. I imagined her feelings would be on par with someone who experienced a miscarriage rather than an abortion because of this. I still do. The only thing that would change my mind at this point is Clara herself. You should go to couples counseling and seek therapy individually. We are both in different types of talk therapy and have been for several years. I'm not sure how helpful couples therapy would be on top of that, but I'm not opposed to it. Asking if you wanted kids was enough. She doesn't owe you anything. Reading through the comments, many of you thought this, and we're simply going to have to disagree. As the father of the child, the decision to abort should not have been made without my clear and explicit knowledge that she was pregnant. We weren't separated at the time, nor did I cheat, and contrary to popular belief, I'm not abusive. I deserve to know. I won't apologize for expecting my wife to consult me on family planning decisions. I'd do the same for her 10 times over if roles were reversed. Call it controlling. I really don't care. Asking if I want kids is a completely different discussion than terminating a pregnancy. I am on my way home now and will update if the situation changes, likely sometime this week. I'd ask for well wishes, but I think it's clear none of you are rooting in my favor. Fucking hell. Edit. Took out the numbers to prevent text from looking long and blocky. Final update. Before I got into where Clara and I are now, a lot of you had some misconceptions concerning things like me reading Clara's journal, vasectomies, and other things. I made a separate post addressing those. Read it, don't, whatever. I came home the morning following my initial post and Clara and I had a very long conversation. We both apologized for letting the previous conversation get out of hand and acting out of character. I also explained why I left in the first place and apologized for raising my voice. She's especially sensitive to that kind of thing, so I addressed it first. She forgave me and said as long as we could keep things calm this time around it would be okay. She was more interested in finding out what I was so deep in thought about that I was gone for so long. Again, we do take breaks from conflicts from time to time and revisit them when we're calmer, though this was the first one where I physically removed myself from her proximity. I told her how I initially felt after reading her journal entry. I hadn't been mad then. Part of me was confused. We had agreed on no kids before getting married after all. The other half was riddled with anxiety. Contrary to what you may all think, I adore Clara. She is quite honestly one of only good things this life has given me. I didn't want to lose her, but if she wanted kids badly enough to put them in her journal, I wasn't sure what that would mean for us. She downplayed the importance of the entry. In her view, not everything she puts into the journal is something she's genuinely hoping for. Some things are just nice to fantasize about, and not every fantasy is meant to be reality. I was honest. I told her that her words were hard to believe given how meticulously she had written everything down and planned it out. The last thing I wanted was for her to harbor resentment over what her life could have been. She assured me that wasn't the case, but I'm still unsure. Talking about the abortion itself was hard on both of us. I wanted to know if she was in pain, what signs I had missed. I didn't really press for details on the procedure, but we talked a lot about how she felt afterwards, why she hid it, and how she came to her decision. I just held her in my arms and listened for the most part. It was gut-wrenching to say the least. It turns out that the second time she had asked if I wanted kids occurred a month or two after she had already had the procedure done. She had asked because she was contemplating whether or not to tell me about it. I guess she had ultimately decided not to. She told me I was actually with her the day she took the pills. I remembered the day because she had been crying and I wasn't sure why. When I asked, she cited cramps, so I got her a heating pad and laid down with her. Her periods have always been pretty hard on her, so I guess I didn't think much of it. In hindsight, I should have realized something was up because she hasn't had bad cramps in years. Still, I'm glad she didn't go through it completely alone. Much later that day, I asked her why she didn't come to me when she realized she was pregnant. In her eyes, she was protecting our relationship. She knows our circumstances, my reasons for not wanting kids, my stance on abortion. She didn't want to burden me with having to choose between the two, and so she made the choice herself. As hard as I try, I can't understand or accept her reasoning. Her decision to go through this alone, while meant to shield me, inadvertently communicated that she doesn't trust me to support her or handle the truth. All I understood is that she feels like she can't lean on me when she's in trouble. And if that's the case, I'm not sure why we're married. She's always been independent, but this is the first time I've felt completely blindsided by not being included. I asked up and down if I'd given her a reason to doubt me, to doubt my commitment to her. If she felt I wasn't a reliable partner, etc. She said no, but that just makes all this harder to grasp. She said she was afraid saying anything would change how I viewed her, our relationship, but I'm having a hard time distinguishing insecurity, anxiety from reasonable doubt. I asked her if she knew I loved her, how much I care for her, the lengths I would go to make her happy, etc. She laughed a little and reminded me of a line from my wedding vows. We shared private vows before our ceremony and I had said quite a bit. I was a little shocked that she remembered that portion at all, let alone word for word. We transitioned to talking about the promises we made to one another, and just times in our relationship where we had complete faith in one another. It helped put us both in better moods and ended the night on a lighter note for both of us. We're doing okay at the moment. Not quite where we were before, but getting there. Everything's still incredibly raw, including our eyes. We both broke down 5 minutes into the conversation. Clara is against couples counseling right now. I'm ambivalent, as we're still working a couple of things out on our own. I'm not sure how helpful a third party asking what steps we're willing to take to improve trust and transparency will really be, but I'm open to anything at this point. We're not leaving one another. Issues or not, we both think it's clear that there's still an abundance of love between us, and we don't want to throw that away. Some of you will be happy to know that Clara and I decided on a new rule for ourselves. Clara was a lot more upset about my leaving than she initially let on. From now on, the distance between the top and bottom floors of our home is all the space either of us are allowed to take. We need to cool our heads. If proximity really does become an issue, the max either of us are allowed to stay outside the house is 48 hours. So no more week-long stays at my sister's. My wife has ADHD, neglects our kids, and humiliated me on Father's Day. After much consideration, I've decided to pursue a divorce. I, 43 years old, try to do my best to provide for my wife, 38 years old, and our 2 kids, ages 3 and 5, as well as my mother-in-law. I like to think that I am doing a decent job. Over the years, I have worked to improve our family's living situation. Not only did I complete another bachelor's degree and recently a master's in a STEM-related field, But I also worked 2 full-time jobs while finishing my second bachelor's degree and supported my wife through her schooling as well. She completed a degree that allows her to make good money, $60-70K/year, in a healthcare field that always has jobs available. However, with the birth of our 2 children, she has since given up on her career to be a stay-at-home mom for the time being. At first, it was a struggle while I was finishing up my master's degree. Once I completed it, after our youngest turned 3, my career took a jump, and we are now able to afford our single-income household in a more feasible manner. We're far from rich but do okay for a single-income family of 4, a little over $150K base plus bonuses. This past year, life has been overwhelming for my wife, so even though I now work 75% from home, I budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help her around the house with one child while the other is now in school. Every day, my day starts around 5:30 to 6 a.m. I prepare the house for the day before the nanny arrives at 8 a.m. I get our oldest child up and ready for school, make breakfast, plan out my day, drop our oldest off at school, and return home in time to let the nanny in. My current task at work has me grounded for the next 2 months, meaning I am now 100% working from home. While this is nice, I am busy in meetings all day as my role involves managing teams on a global scale and overseeing industry projects. For the past month and a half, I have noticed that despite my wife claiming her life at home is stressful, her day starts at 10 a.m. After a week of working from home, I asked my mother-in-law and the nanny if this was always the case, and they both responded that it varies, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. My wife literally wakes up, cooks, and then spends time scrolling through her phone or shopping online, which brings me to my concern. I am glad I can provide her with this lifestyle since we both grew up with limited means. I understand the possibility of postpartum depression, the stress of having kids, the feeling of being unfulfilled, and the fact that I may not be the best husband. But for what it's worth, everything is taken care of and then some. I manage the household finances, since she claimed she was too busy to do so. Pay all the household bills, cover my personal bills, pay her bills, track and perform all the upkeep of our house appliances, cars, pets, etc. And I also help pay for my mother-in-law's medical bills and car note. Despite this, my life is apparently much easier compared to hers. I can't decompress with her because she always feels the need to one-up me. If I have a bad day, she insists hers was worse because I'm lucky to go away and work. If my feet hurt from walking all day during work travel, she says it's nothing compared to her standing and cooking with a child clinging to her. For the past 2 years, I've been told I ruined her life and her opportunities. But when I remind her of what she says, she denies and dodges accountability. My mother-in-law has noticed a change in both me and my wife, pointing out that I have a greater attachment to my kids and that I've even hugged the dogs and talked to them more about my life than to my wife. I honestly feel like I'm in emotional survival mode. I am one step away from moving up the career ladder and one step away from finding love and comfort at the bottom of a whiskey bottle. I am sure I will be hearing from the manly men of Reddit about how I am simping. But I am not a machine. I just want to know and feel that someone I prioritize aside from my kids appreciates and loves me for what I do. I am sure I will hear from the stay-at-home moms of Reddit. Which is fine. I grew up in a single parent/mother household. It is not easy. And honestly, with the help of her mother and a nanny Monday to Friday, for one toddler while another child is at school, can you honestly tell me she is having the typical stay-at-home mom experience? Because neither my friends nor colleagues who are single parents can say she is. I am sure the masses of holier-than-thou Redditors will consider this a poorly written fanfic, but it is what it is. To summarize, TLDR. It feels as if my wife has checked out of our marriage. We are only roommates where she can still reap the benefits of marriage. I am not asking for her to throw herself at me all the time and let me do whatever I want. I really just want to be told I am doing good and to offer me some form of emotional comfort as simple as a hug, but I guess as the man who ruined her life, I deserve it. Thank you for the replies. To add more context, never cheated. I do work in an industry that has a large female population, but I am literally an open book with work, name colleagues and staff under me. She has access to my work agendas and correspondence if she really wanted to snoop, but on that note, she still does not know what exactly I do for a living at this time. We as a whole family, her parents and mine have tried to get her to go to therapy but she refuses or skirts around the issue. Aside from my coming from a single mother household, my biological dad was present in my life. She has had both parents in a reportedly monogamous marriage for over 40 years. I have tried to talk to her about everything and my own feelings but again, one-upmanship tends to be the trend here. What I am receiving from the marriage was asked. Now, aside from my 2 beautiful kids, I've been asking myself that same question. We have a near non-existent sex life mainly since last year. I always figured maybe it's part of depression or whatever she may be going through. Maybe I'm just not attractive enough or just horrible in bed because of my health conditions. I'm not some supermodel husband, but temptation and opportunity does knock and I can perform still, but I never give in, because as cliche as it sounds, I honestly do love my wife and want to only be with her. I'll give credit where credit is due, as I don't want to sound biased. When I say she wakes up and cooks, she cooks for everyone in the house. Myself, kids, MIL, and even Nanny. Aside from breakfast, she cooks all meals and snacks. I typically fast until lunchtime, and our oldest tends to eat a small simple breakfast in case they don't like what school serves that morning. She does load both the kids and her laundry, but seldomly folds and puts them up. I typically do my own, and the rest of my clothes I dry clean because they're work clothes. She does keep track of our pantry and fridge. But after she makes the list, I'm the one who goes out and buys everything if not delivered. She does clean our bathrooms and house 50% of the time. The other 50% is done by either MIL or myself, or sometimes Nanny if she feels like being extra helpful. Prior to Nanny, my MIL was the main help for my wife up until she had unexpected medical needs. So I opted to hire a nanny to help them both, more so when MIL is having treatments and recovering. Update: not sure if anyone would read this, but thank you for those who have reached out and chit-chatted. While I know I've kept my newfound friends here updated, I figured I'd just update my post and keep it short. I showed my wife my post the following weekend and she read it and all the comments. Long story short, argument: she left our house to stay with her sister, and I've been a single parent since. It's sad to say, aside from the good nights to our kids, it's all pretty much the same routine. Nothing much else to say other than thank you for all the kind words of encouragement. I just need to add, this post got bigger than I expected from a venting post, but I've responded to a few comments. Nonetheless, thank you for the comments and DMs. And more so for the offers to let me ruin your life, huh? It's been the highlight of my day/night as I sit here drinking with my dog while everyone else is asleep. It feels depressingly sad that I feel that I have to turn to random internet strangers for some sort of validation in my rant. My apologies in advance as I try to keep this as vague as possible. I just wanted to update those who have been kind enough to check up via DM and comments. Apologies in advance for the lengthy post. It's a bit of irony and coincidence that I made a follow-up from the update on 06 May 2024 I made on my original post during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but I could really use another outlet outside of my therapist. My apologies if this isn't the storybook ending/destroying of a relationship people were hoping for. To save you a read, wife left? Came back like nothing happened. She made it about her. Nothing changed. I'm continuing to be suffering mentally, knowing nothing will change while trying to keep it together for our kids. Lots of takeout. The day after she packed up and left, my wife attempted to come back and take the kids with her to her sister's. Naturally, I was against this, and thankfully so was her whole family, including said sister. Not only was it not fair to our kids for her to sweep them away into a home that's not theirs, but to put that financial and housing stress on the rest of her family since she doesn't work and her sister and her family, husband and 3 kids, stays with their dad in the house they grew up in. After a little over a week of being away, I guess she cooled off, so she just decided that it would be fine if she walked in the door with her bags as if she just came back from Target. She came into my office while I was working and angrily stared at me while I sat on a conference call meeting with my team, and I couldn't just jump off as this is a busy time of the quarter for us. I guess that didn't sit well with her, because once I took off my headset and closed my laptop, she started yelling at me about how much I really don't care about her and her well-being overall. At that moment I couldn't do anything more than look at her and just shake my head. Mother-in-law came in after hearing my wife yelling and pulled her away, telling her to not bother me, while our nanny kept our youngest away from it all on the other side of the house. That night after the kids were put to bed, I sat in my office by myself with a drink, as I have been doing for the past nights, and my wife came in. We talked, we argued, we cried, we drank. One thing led to another and we were in bed. I wish I could say that was our making up, but the next sobering morning as we laid there, she went on about how hard it was for her the time she was gone. Literally. It was about her struggles staying at her family house in her old room with her dad and sister's family. How lucky I am to be able to stay here and do this and that and buy this or do that and not stress as much as they did. How easy my and everyone else's in our family lives are compared to hers, even though we had similar upbringings. My mind and heart broke that morning. I've been spiraling down since then, and this last week I made another attempt to reconcile and talk things out, but I was met with a shouting match while trying to express my current stress and anxieties with life and work in general. Wife. Well, do you know how hard this is all for me? You're supposed to help me be happy. Me. So when it comes to my happiness, stress, needs, and overall well-being, FK me, get over it, right? Wife. We all have our own problems, you need to figure it out and get over them. I don't know who the woman I am at home with is, but that wasn't the woman I married and vowed to spend my life with and raise our kids together. Since that conversation, I've been noticeably distant with her. I've been sleeping in my office or on the couch or with my kids in their bed after putting either one of them to sleep. Still doesn't change her starting her day at 10 a.m., and sitting on her phone talking to her mom groups between cooking meals with the kids in both mother-in-law and nanny's care. Nothing has changed, and I doubt that anything will change. Sadly, I think even if we got a divorce, nothing would change or feel different anyway, since during my wife's leaving the days seemed like any other day except with a little more takeout than usual. My main fear there isn't that I wouldn't just lose my wife, I'd lose my kids in the process. So I guess it's sad to say the grand finale to my story. Like a lot of men and some women I've talked to here, I'll just continue to smile and suffer in silence. First off, thank you for all the comments and DMs, some context and clarification, since admittingly my post was emotionally charged since I typed it up after another argument. Post-birth, our kids' pediatrician's office gave my wife those postpartum depression screening forms, and during the time of both she scored pretty high and was suggested to see a therapist. With our second child she scored significantly higher, and I made an effort to get her the help she needs. She refused, so entered mother-in-law and nanny for support. I know what people will say/think, but this is one of the reasons I'm not 100% ready to just give up and file our life together away. Also, I know silently suffering in the near and long run of our kids' future will not add to a healthy atmosphere, but neither would a bitter and hate-filled divorce. I know some have compared it to the ripping off a bandage, saying it'll hurt at first but that pain goes away, but I'd rather try to spare my kids thinking that their parents ended up hating each other because of them or something along those lines. I've told a few PPL I talked to in DM since my last post, a little more insight on my personal life. Prior to my promotion I was a PM managing teams and budgets, so out of habit I plan for a lot of what ifs. That being said, I made a number of contingency plans if sadly things went south. So yes, I have talked to a lawyer, 3 actually. Know our rights and what each of us are entitled to. Have a draft settlement created and on hold until I feel I need to use it. I know what I want and am willing to offer more than what is fair for our kids' well-being, but also have a plan if we end up going to court. It's 100% on me that I'm suffering in silence, but I'm too stubborn to just give up, so while I'm venting, I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I endure it to keep the norm our kids know, ensure my MIL's treatments go uninterrupted, and of course the hope my wife would finally be open to give therapy a shot and climb together to a better place. New update, I'm done. Wife said I don't do and am not shit in front of the therapist and family Father's Day dinner. She got served. She was mad. She is trying to act perfect and I'm just waiting while taking care of my family, kids, my mom, and MIL. Oh well, I'll just ruin everyone else's life too and my family. Secondly, to clear some confusion. I did not get 2 bachelor's and a master's while working 2 jobs at the same time as some readers are assuming. Bachelor's degree number 1 was completed in the early 2000s. Bachelor's degree number 2 was earned through online courses over several years, taking 2 classes per semester, all while I held down 2 full-time jobs. The first job was at a hospital with a 36-48 schedule, and the second job was at a big box store, where I worked 40 hours spread out over 7 days a week. I worked these jobs to pay for both my tuition and my wife's, as she decided to return to school before we had children. After completing bachelor's degree number 2 and entering the industry where I currently work, I was able to transition to one job and pursue my master's degree. So no, I did not earn 3 degrees simultaneously or in rapid succession. I'm surprised that I have to clarify this, as working 2 jobs while attending school isn't that uncommon, or at least that's what I thought. My wife chooses not to work. She does technically have a job. She just barely works it to the point we forget she has a job, as in she worked one day 5 months ago for 8 hours on a Tuesday. Kind of barely works. Her job and manager is really supportive, flex PRN model, and gives her a list of days they need coverage and she can choose to pick up a shift or not. While she can work more and only does just enough to keep up her license, she complains to our family of her career being on hold for one reason or the other, although she has the opportunity to work more if she opted to. All things considered, she has an available supportive circle around her for either decision she falls on. Our family, her job and I have made multiple offers and taken many steps to open that door for her to go back to work. That is nanny, MIL moved in to help, I work from home, her crazy flex PRN schedule, etc., etc. But here we are. I am and have been in therapy for myself already. Aside from what I deal with at home, My work can be very debilitating in regard to my mental health as well as physical at times. Since I can't find the support I need mentally and physically at home with my wife, I've opted to attend therapy rather than find comfort with someone outside of the home or at the bottom of a bottle. I've tried to express this to my wife, and as mentioned in my previous post, she has a habit of one-upping me. And here we are. My in-laws are still married. Given the circumstances in our home, my MIL moved in to help out my wife, while my SIL and her family moved back into their parents' house due to their own reasons. SIL and her family can save money while getting back on their feet, and my wife and I benefit from MIL's help, and we can keep a closer eye on her while she undergoes bi-monthly treatments. My wife, by means of questionnaires, is highly suspected to have PPD alongside with a history of symptomatic OCD, ADHD, amongst other ailments that over the years she refused to get evaluated for or refused to accept results given. I knew what I was getting into, and I loved and accepted my wife for these flaws as she did mine at the time. Spare me your gut. I don't feel sorry for you, or pity. I am like every other man who fell in love and wanted to give my person the best of me and the world I can offer. But again, here we are. There are many men who identify strongly with traditional masculinity or the red pill ideology who complain and say that I am simping over my wife. While I respect your opinions and perspectives, I will outright say that if this situation were only affecting my life, I would have left a long time ago. As one Redditor mentioned in a previous comment that stuck with me, I am the kind of person who will take a bullet for his kids. Perhaps it was meant in a different context, but I am committed to protecting my children from any physical or mental harm. I am willing to metaphorically take the bullet as needed. I believe that other fathers would similarly respond to the duty to protect their children, and that's why I endured as much as I have. For the time being, I would prefer that my wife direct any problems towards me rather than our kids. Thank you all for the comments and reaching out. I've met many strangers who have become great Reddit pen pals and some who have been in the know of every step that has been progressing to this point. I am surprised at how far this has gone, from other subreddits, other platforms, and even YouTube. Love me, hate me, say it's all fake, no matter where you stand, thank you for all the constructive comments and DMs to check in. Our kids and myself are going to be alright moving forward. Now for the update, the end of an era. This will be shorter than some expected, as really there's not much to say but just satiate the questions some of you may have had and give people the satisfaction of the I told you so moment on Reddit. After a hard push from our family via an intervention, my wife and I finally attempted to go to marriage counseling. I'm sure many of you can guess how well that went. Blame, tears, regrets, gaslighting, with a side of I am the reason for her life being ruined and horrible. Again. Just this time in front of a licensed therapist instead of Reddit or mom groups. In the end, everything the therapist suggested and noted went over her head and ignored as it was against the grain of her status quo. One thing I guess worth saying was the therapist asked if she could recall when she last truly felt happy. Her response was about 12 or so years ago. Please note, 12 years ago she was still in her 20s, childless. Living with her ex. A vastly different time and position in life. I know it's petty of me, but I guess if that's when she was last happy, it wouldn't be that far of a stretch for her to find that happiness again, since her ex is in the same apartment, job and place in life that he was 12 years ago. Which is fine, if that's how you want to live life. I try not to judge, but in my 40s with kids, going clubbing 3-4 days a week is not my jam anymore. And of course, I don't want my kids around a mom and company who drowns themselves in White Claws. To add, I know some will ask. I know and can confirm she hasn't physically cheated on me, but can't confirm if she did emotionally, if that's the right term. After said therapy session, I checked all her phone records and didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but I also didn't bother to check apps like IG or Snapchat. I know I'm probably boring, but shout out to all the Costco dads whose Sunday Funday includes making rounds with kids for samples. The following weekend was Father's Day, and this year is expected not that big of a celebration as it is for many dads out there. Our family got together to celebrate with a BBQ and just simple family time, and my wife treated it like any other day. Sleep in, get up, cook, phone, shop. Attempt to play with kids, phone. During said family BBQ, my wife said she felt ill, so she sat around most of the day while the rest of the family as a whole made the experience enjoyable. When everything was set up and the family all sat at the table, her parents and sister's family, my mother, our kids, admittingly it was a great spread. Nothing extravagant, but just a great meal for everyone. I was conversing with my brother-in-law about both of our kids' school Father's Day activities, and I assume my wife overheard when I mentioned that it was a little sad to see some kids sit alone without their fathers during the breakfast with dad event I attended. She blurted out with a laugh loud enough for the whole room to hear, It's not like you do anything anyway, I could have gone instead. At that moment I was red and at a loss for words, sitting there processing what she said in my head, while the dining room went dead silent. My MIL broke the awkwardness and in response said, "Well, maybe if you feel that way, one of you should divorce the other." My wife looked at my MIL confused that she would respond with that and laughed mockingly in my direction and with her hand pointing at me said, "As if another woman would want a man like him. Just look at you." While the room sat silent. I was angry, heartbroken, confused, and embarrassed all at the same time. In manly man fashion, I just nodded my head in silence, stood up and picked up my keys and got in my truck and drove off to get a drink while trying to ignore the cries of the rest of the family and our kids telling me to stay. I don't know what was said or done while I was out of the house the rest of Sunday, because I couldn't bring myself to check our house cameras. But when I returned early Monday morning, the house had a completely different feel. As usual, I woke up around 6, got the house and our oldest ready for school drop-off. Checked emails, checked messages, nothing out of the ordinary. As I was getting dressed to leave, my wife laid in our bed snoring lightly. All I could do was look at her and think of what we had, and now lost. I've decided. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I texted my lawyer that morning to move forward with serving her. Fast forward to last week, she was served at our home, reminder to people I had no choice but to be there because I work from home. She had, I guess what you could call a mini meltdown and came into my office screaming how could I do this to her. Her mother intervened, and that was met with me supposedly turning her whole family against her. But I digress. I probably would have felt bad if it wasn't immediately followed by the rest of her week acting as if she's been this active and attentive wife and mother the past few years. Sure, people can say she's making an attempt, but she's made many attempts, and historically we fall back to where we've been. For those curious, I am aiming for full or at least majority custody of our kids. I already and will continue to cover all the expenses for our kids, insurance, tuition, both of our kids will be attending private schools come fall, medical bills, etc. My MIL has given me the courage and strength that helped supplement my own mother's support throughout this. Basically, she is what I hoped the kind of mother-wife my wife would have been to our kids and me. Out of respect for my MIL as well as per my own mother's shared wishes, I will continue to help oversee and contribute financial help if needed during her treatments. While some may feel I should cut their whole family off, I know the hardships pushed onto a family while dealing with cancer and have dealt with it firsthand as a family member and care provider on both sides of the desk. All in all, I'm prepared to go to war if needed, but I just want a clean no-fuss divorce. My wife has no alimony coming, so sorry for the Redditors and mommy gang Facebook groups saying she needs to divorce me first and get that sweet, sweet alimony money. 1. We live in a state that does not typically enforce alimony. 2. She has a means of gainful employment immediately. 3. To help curb any possible problems, I will cover her insurance and bills until either divorce is finalized or when she gains full employment. So that's that. I'm done and waiting for the steps to be taken for everything to be finalized. Sorry it wasn't as exciting of a story with plot twists as some may have hoped for, but that's life. Not sure I'll update this once it's all finalized, which probably won't be for a few more months depending if we go to war or not. I discovered explicit messages between my wife and a man at the gym. When confronted, she admitted to the affair but insisted it wasn't serious. My wife is 30 years old and she's always worked out and been in shape, but lately I feel like it's becoming excessive. She used to regularly work out at a gym when she was in college. At some point she stopped going to the gym, I think lately just due to her schedule, and preferred to work out at home or go for runs outside. About 18 months ago she announced she was going to get back into the habit of going to the gym. She now has a job where she's able to make more time for it. It started off normal, but slowly became more and more frequent. She signed up for classes on the weekend, both days. She started going to the gym every day, then it became the morning before work and then again later in the evening. Every single day. If she's stressed, she goes to the gym. Experience some sort of life crisis. She immediately heads to the gym. We have an argument, run to the gym. She's 4 months pregnant right now. I'm kind of surprised we even had time to make a kid. I understand that it's safe for her to work out, especially since she was already in the habit of doing it before she got pregnant, but the intensity is not slowing down. If she misses one of her normal gym sessions, she becomes so irritable. Like a junkie not getting her fix. It's just bizarre. Truly a case of too much of a good thing. Of course she gets upset when I voice that I feel it's becoming an unhealthy obsession and that I miss spending time with her because she's there so much. She has all of these friends and this whole circle of people there that she seems to prefer spending time with over me. Why don't we work out together at the gym? The gym is her time, she says. This isn't a case of me feeling insecure because she's in great physical shape and I'm a fat slob. I work out and am in shape. My job really requires me to stay in shape, so I can't let myself go if I want to. I genuinely feel her gym habits are unhealthy. She's over-exercising, for one. There is such a thing. But worse than that, I feel it's becoming a way for her to escape everything else in her life. She never actually fixed anything that goes wrong in her life. She just runs off to the gym to get some sort of mood boost and then that's it. She also never gets anything else done in a practical sense because how can she when she's at the gym so often? It's to the point where I have to do every chore, and if food is getting made I'm going to have to do it. I don't expect her to do all of those things, but it should at least be a shared effort. People we know have even commented about it to me. They've said things about how she seems different, how she sure is at the gym a lot, and many of her friends and family barely see her anymore. Some have even suggested she's having an affair with somebody there. Please tell me that this doesn't sound normal to you. She insists this is perfectly normal. Update 1. I posted not very long ago about my wife's addiction to the gym. A compulsion, if you will. She spends most of her free time there. She often goes twice a day and sometimes even 3 times if we have a fight at night and she needs to run off instead of actually talking to me. She won't let me go to her gym and she refuses to go to mine. Her gym is her place, my gym is my place, and that's just the way it has to be according to her. I'd love to have her come along with me. I've invited her multiple times. She's about 18 weeks pregnant right now. This is our first baby. She worked out like crazy prior to the pregnancy and she continues to work just as hard now. I truly didn't think she was cheating on me. People suggested it in the last thread and I laughed. You can tell she's at the gym a lot, she's in great shape. So she's obviously going there. I felt really confident about the cheating issue, and when I posted 9 days ago I wasn't even considering cheating. I'm embarrassed to admit that after reading a lot of the comments on my last post, I thought maybe I was being overly confident about her fidelity. She usually always has her phone on her, but she left it on the kitchen counter, and as stupid as I felt, I decided to do a quick swipe through her texts. She had a current text conversation going on with a guy. I recognize the name. The same name of a guy from the gym she mentions a lot. She's friends with a lot of people there, and went to one of their weddings last fall. I wasn't too terribly concerned until I started reading the texts. Never wanted to know what the guy's dick looked like, but I know now. She was only out of the room for literally about a minute or two, so I had to scroll fast. I was furious. I asked her what the fuck that conversation was about. She started yelling at me for looking at her phone. I told her she's acting so weird and the gym obsession was really bothering me, so I just decided to look and was ashamed that I did, but I thought I'd find nothing at all. She said, "It's nothing. It's nothing." Didn't look like anything to me. She sure seemed pretty interested in this nothing. I wanted to know if she's been fucking him. For how long? She kept saying no. I left the house because I was so furious, but not before I slammed her phone on the ground and shattered it. She was calling me all sorts of names for breaking her phone. She hit me on the back as hard as she could. I left. Went to my brother's house. My brother and sister-in-law were shocked, although my sister-in-law was one of the most vocal ones about my wife's gym obsession being weird and bringing it up to me constantly. I went home. She was in bed crying. She obviously couldn't call me or anyone else for that matter. She was laying it on thick. "I don't know if you'd ever come home. Give me a break." I took her phone to get repaired tonight. She doesn't deserve it, but I still feel like an ass breaking her phone. I still don't know how deep it goes. She won't admit to anything beyond what I saw. Was it sexting, bad enough, or more? I'm convinced it was a lot more, but she refuses to hand over her phone and is now trying to act like I'm this terrible monster who is abusing her because I broke her phone. Not my proudest moment, but I honestly wanted to body slam her after she punched me. I have never and would never actually touch her like that. Update 2. Not sure if posting something in my profile will be seen by anyone, but I don't feel like making another update in a subreddit. Today my wife asked me to stay home from work so we could talk. She laid in bed all day yesterday trying to make me feel sorry for her, but I paid absolutely no attention to her and ended up leaving the house to go to my family's Super Bowl party. I wasn't in the mood to go, but I wasn't going to sit at home with her. It really bothered her that I left. She kept texting me things like, "Who just leaves like that? When something like this is happening, who is that cold and callous that they just leave to go to a party?" I stayed home today to talk to her. She was full of tears. She's so sorry. According to her, she really was going to the gym twice a day because she likes going there. That's where her friends are, makes her feel good, it's fun for her. She met this guy there and he started flirting with her. Everyone likes him. He's one of the most popular guys there. I didn't realize there were popular people at gyms. She admitted that she flirted back but didn't mean anything by it. She didn't reciprocate very much at first, but he gave her butterflies, and she just found herself flirting back without thinking. She said it felt like she had a crush on somebody when she was in school when she was younger. They started texting. At first it was just friendly and nothing sexual for several months, but she'd feel giddy every time she got a message from him. She was really attracted to him, but told him that she was married and there could never actually be anything between them. According to her, he kept flirting with her anyway and said, "Sure, we won't cross the line." Until they did cross the line. She said she had tried to resist it for a while, but then one day they kissed. She admitted to enjoying it but also feeling that it was wrong. She must not have felt that bad because she slept with him for the first time later that night. She described it like falling in love with somebody for the first time. All she could think about was him. Is she in love with him? She doesn't know. Is this baby mine? She thinks so, but there's always a small chance it could be his. He always uses a condom, so she doesn't think it's his baby, but they were sleeping together at the time she got pregnant. She loves me. She can't help that there's just this huge spark between the two of them. She doesn't know if she loves him. She doesn't know if the baby is mine. She doesn't know why she did this. She doesn't know what she thinks we should do. The nail in the coffin is when she said, "You would really leave me if it's not your baby, would you?" She had the balls to ask me that. I told her of course I'm leaving her and I wouldn't raise another man's child. She seemed shocked. She said, "Really? With everything we have in all our history, you wouldn't even consider it?" She can't be serious. I told her no, I would never consider it. She agreed to get a DNA test. She tearfully agreed, like I'm supposed to feel sorry for her about it. I don't know who this woman is. She was crying the whole time, but not tears of an ashamed or sorry person. They were tears for herself and meant to try to make me feel bad. Feel bad for what? That her heart is apparently so torn. My life has been reduced to a trashy daytime talk show. The woman who was once my wife, who I considered a classy woman, has turned into complete trailer trash. Today she announced that she's moving in with her affair partner from the gym. She's pregnant, might be his kid, might be mine. She's too embarrassed to go get blood drawn for a paternity test. She spent about a week trying to get my attention, to get me to talk to her, to get me to beg her to be mine. I didn't fall for any of it. I've largely been ignoring her, and when we have to speak I keep it very brief. We've been living together this whole time, but I'm in a different room now and functioning separate from her in all ways. So her pouting and trying to get me to pay attention to her and give her a gold star for not going to the gym for 5 days in a row didn't work. Today she texted me to say she is moving in with him. Somehow I still care about this person. I've already met with a lawyer though. I can care about her as a human being and possible mother of my child without being married to her. Still, it stung to hear her say she was going to be with him. I told her it wasn't a smart move to leave the house. I've even told her she should probably meet with a lawyer. She doesn't care about anything I have to say. I don't think she needs to move in with anybody. I actually feel bad for her that she can't just be on her own. I asked her if he actually knew she was pregnant and wanted to know what story she's been telling him this whole time. She said he knows and he doesn't care if it's my baby, he loves her and wants to be with her. Bizarre. You can't find anyone else? Somebody who isn't a married pregnant woman? Why would you take that on? Doesn't make sense to me. He's scum, but he's a good-looking scum who apparently is gainfully employed and owns his own home, so you can't tell me that my married pregnant wife is your only option here. I just can't imagine being a single guy like that and wanting to put up with this baggage when I could have other options. And if this really is my baby, then what? They'll live with my wife and this weasel 50% of the time. I don't know how my life turned into this mess. And she thinks it's embarrassing to have to go get blood drawn? My wife moved in with her AP last weekend. She didn't take very much at all. Most of her stuff is still in our house. I still get the feeling she was just waiting for me to beg her to come home, but I didn't reach out to her at all after she left. It was a strange mixture of relief, anger, and sadness. I don't think I ate at all until last night. Just never felt hungry. Drank a little too much. But I'm fine. I'm posting this update because I've received a ton of messages from people and honestly it's emotionally draining to respond to each one and to have to type the same stuff out. I just don't feel like talking about her that much. So this morning she texted me to say her AP wants to get a DNA test done, so she's going to do it. Look at that. It didn't matter when I wanted one, but now that he has requested it she suddenly thinks it's a great idea. She asked if I wanted to submit a sample because it'll be cheaper to have 2 dads tested as part of one package. I don't even care about the cost at this point, I just want an answer. I don't have to see or interact with them at all. I just have to make my own appointment with the lab to get my cheek swabbed. So this Saturday I'm going to do that and we should have the results within a week. I'll take what I can get at this point because it's better than her dragging this out for another 20 weeks. So that's it, I'm fine. I'm going to work every day. Trying to function. Just feel stuck in limbo. I miss her. Honestly, I hate that she's there with him. It makes me sick. Part of me does want to beg her to come home. It'll be even worse if I find out that it's my baby and she's there with him. Unless he drops her at that news. I won't let myself beg her. I won't play any of those games with her. Update 2. My wife has been having an affair with a guy she met at the gym for at least nearly a year. She's around 22 weeks pregnant right now. She was somewhere around 17 weeks when I discovered she was cheating. She maintained that she was positive I was the father, but then refused to get a paternity test done to ease my mind. We recently had a paternity test done. At the request of her affair partner, and it proves the baby is mine. It's been very mixed emotions for me, very up and down. Originally I thought I just wanted to be completely done with her and not have any lifelong ties in the form of a full-blown human being we shared, but I was sort of happy or relieved when I got the results. I'd already had it in my mind that I was going to be a father for months before I found out she was cheating. Sometimes I just have moments where I can't believe this is my life, that this is the situation that my kid will be born into and I hate her for it. She's still living with him. All of her belongings are still here in our house. I refuse to do the work of packing everything up for her. She doesn't seem concerned about taking any of her things, beyond the essentials. After we got the news that I'm the baby's father, she texted me to say she's glad I'm the father and that she knows I'll be a great dad. She was texting me new baby name ideas last night. She's tried calling but I ignore the calls. I only speak with her via text. This morning she asked if she could come by and get a few things. I told her it was fine, as I've been advised by my lawyer to not prevent her entry from the home, but I told her that he better not be with her. So who shows up with her? The scumbag boyfriend. He walks right on into the house behind her like it's no big deal. She ran upstairs to get the stuff she wanted and he and I were just left standing there in the living room. He told me it wasn't her fault that he was there. She told him I didn't want to come but he forced his way along. He wanted to talk to me, supposedly, to tell me he understands how I must be feeling. No, you don't know. He told me he knows I probably don't believe him, but he genuinely loves her and knew he probably wasn't the father. He accepts it and then tries to assure me he won't try to take my place with the baby and hopes we can just get along since we're both going to be in her life now. He promises that she's fine, he's looking after her. I told him that I couldn't for the life of me imagine what he wanted with a pregnant woman who is having another man's child, which I found weird. Then I told him if he didn't get out of my house I'd punch him. I went upstairs and she was trying to find some things in the bathroom. I got mad, asked her why she brought him along, and told her I find it really strange that he still wants to be with her now that he knows he has nothing to do with this baby, and that I refuse to let him have anything to do with my child. She said he talked her into coming and she's sorry and never meant for any of this to happen but she's in love with him now. He is supposedly what a 30-year-old girl is looking for, not me. She's setting up a nursery in his house and I can set one up at my house and she has no intention of trying to get full custody or anything like that. She doesn't want to keep me from being involved in my child's life. How generous of her. She went back downstairs and I followed her and he was still standing there in the living room and I just walked up to him and punched him. He stumped back and fell into a table. She yelled, "What the fuck?" and ran over to him. I don't even care at this point. As if he's going to call the cops. He deserved it and it wouldn't have happened had he just left like I told him to. Several hours later she texted me to say she was sorry about today. He really meant what he said and he's actually a good guy and he cares about her and he respects me. WTF, does he respect me? He was screwing my wife in the gym locker room. I was like, you can't be serious. She said, fine. I'm trying to have a mature conversation about this. I can't help that we fell in love. Believe it or not, I'm not trying to hurt you and I want everything to be amicable. This guy stole my wife and he's stealing my kid too. Sure, I'm the actual father, but now they're setting up a nursery together in his house. I've tried to not feel jealous or sad. I've tried to maintain the thought that he's the trash man who picked up my garbage. Sometimes I feel that way, but the truth is that I loved her, and still love her. I don't want to stay married to her on principle alone, but this is devastating to me. Update 3. My wife is basically 26 weeks pregnant now. There actually hasn't been much drama with her and her AP. I was away for a long weekend last week and it was nice to just get away from home for a while. Only really annoying thing that's happened is that I told her I'm being in the delivery room, not him. After everything she's done, she owes me that. It's not his baby. He has no right or reason to be there. I will not be the one waiting outside when my kid is being born. She said yeah, she agreed, and she never planned to have him in there with her. I asked her if she'd told him that, and she said no. I told her to tell him he'll have no part in it. Well, she told him, and apparently he didn't like that, and he started trying to convince her why he should be there. Next thing I know, she's telling me that he really wants to be there, and she's the one giving birth, so she should be able to say who she wants there, and she wants him there. I suppose he'll start making name suggestions soon, and will try to overrule names we've had picked out for our future kids for years. We've talked a little bit, and she told me I can have our house and the dog in our divorce. I'm requesting that we sell the house and split the profit. I already wrote that in the paperwork. I'm not buying her out of our house, a house that I've made all the payments on anyway. I have a much better credit score than her and less debt. I compromised a lot because she liked this house. I'd rather be able to get my own place based just on what I want and with no reminders of her. And there was already no way she was getting the dog. I already had proof that I owned him though, so she wouldn't really stand a chance of having a court award the dog to her. It's the one thing I told my lawyer I wanted above everything else, not including any custody issues surrounding my actual human child. Honestly, her AP can have her, but he will never ever have my dog. Not to mention my dog is 100 times more loyal than my wife, and some might even say better looking too. So with the idea I won't be living here in this house for much longer after the baby is born, if everything moves quickly, I decided I will still prepare a nursery here anyway in case anyone wants to try to accuse me of not being invested, prepared for fatherhood. I'm trying to look at the positives. It doesn't matter what colors she likes or what themes. I can do whatever I want. Honestly, we've been together for so long and have lived together for most of our adult lives. It's sort of nice not living with somebody, but sort of lonely too. I have friends and family, but it's hard to feel in the mood to go out or hang out with people too often. They always ask me about everything that's going on, and it's just like I'm tired of that being the topic of conversation. I got a promotion at work, which financially would have been better had it happened after the divorce, but I'll take what I can get. I feel like I'm living in this limbo right now, and a lot of what I do is always framed around how will this affect me in the divorce. Admittedly, I spy on them on social media sometimes. Guess I'm hoping to see he's been in a motorcycle accident or something now that the weather is nicer. Hasn't happened yet, but he's starting a new company, and once that's up and running I can always get all my friends and family to leave 1-star reviews everywhere. Have to find ways to have a little fun. Sorry that I don't respond to a lot of messages or comments. Sometimes I just take big breaks from looking at Reddit since it can be depressing AF. Editing to add something I forgot. She told her family that we've split up and that she's with this other guy now. Her sister reached out to me to say how sorry she was. Her sister is a dumbass, that sort of thing. She told me that my wife was complaining about her AP. The sex is over when he's done, and apparently he's really selfish with sex. He doesn't do extra little things for her that she's used to me doing. Like clearing the snow off her car in the morning and heating it up, or offering to make her food after a long day. He doesn't speak her love language, and he hangs out with his friends too much. This made me so happy to hear. She's secretly miserable, and I find that absolutely delightful. I'm still alive. I'm mainly posting here because several people have reached out to me and were concerned that I'd taken my own life. No, I'm not on the brink of ending my life. I think I'm doing better than I have since all of this started. Around the time of my last post, my story blew up and I was getting messages from people who saw it on TikTok and YouTube. I had to take a step back because it was a little overwhelming. I have over 100 unread messages here. I appreciate it, but it was a little uncomfortable at the time, and I got to the point where I didn't really want to talk about the situation with my wife and her AP anymore. So as of today, our baby is due in less than 10 weeks. We're in the home stretch now. I don't feel prepared at all. All of this other stuff has just been so distracting. I started working in a nursery. It's not done yet, but I have the floor finished and the walls painted. My ex-wife was impressed with the color scheme and furniture I chose. She's not legally my ex-wife yet, but I've started calling her that. It sort of makes it easier. I also packed up a bunch of her stuff. Originally, I refused to spend my time packing up her things, but eventually just said screw it and started packing it. I'm at the point where it'll just be easier to not see all of her stuff around here. Why did I leave it for so long? She came over to get some of the boxes I packed up. She came alone. Things were fine between us. I loaded the stuff into her car. We didn't argue. At one point she started to tear up and said she fucked up. I said yes she did, but there's no point talking about it now. She shit all over our marriage. She has her muscle-bound asshole to go home to now anyway, so who cares? She said, I know, but it's not the same. I told her nothing has been the same since she decided to fuck him the first time. Supposedly he's going to let me be in the delivery room when my baby is born. I didn't even argue it when she said it like that, but inside I was boiling at the idea of him letting me be there for the birth of my child. She says she talked to him and he agreed it wouldn't really be right to not allow me to be there. I'm going to take what I can get if it means being there for the birth of my child. I'm going to try to just ignore him for the time being. She was acting all sweet and laying on all of the I really want you there, I really need you there stuff, and I know mentally I'm not in a place to be that cold to her when she starts acting that way. I'm trying to be indifferent more than anything else, but it's so hard when she's actually around and starts looking at me a certain way and making me feel bad. She invited me over to see the nursery they have set up at his house. I'm not sure I can bring myself to go into another man's house and look at the nursery set up for my kid. I did ask her if she was truly safe there though. I don't know why, it's just been bothering me. As pissed as I still am, I don't want to find out he's mistreating her, and I definitely don't want my kid to be going into an unsafe household. I haven't told her about anything her sister has told me. They probably won't last, but as of right now there's a very good chance my newborn baby will be going home to his house. It kills me to think about. It's almost soul-destroying to think about if I dwell on it too long. She says she's fine. He genuinely loves her. He's great with kids. He accepts that she's having a baby and that this is part of the package. She insists it's not weird because she wasn't pregnant when anything started between them. I asked her why she did it. Why did she ever let anything start between them in the first place? She said, I don't know. Then went into I don't want to talk about this mode and left pretty soon after. Typical behavior from her. Just run away. Overall, I'm doing okay. I'm not sitting here depressed and drinking a bottle of scotch every night anymore. I mean on occasion, but for the most part no. I feel more used to my new normal now, and that'll all change yet again pretty soon. New update. I have a baby. A little girl. I'm a dad. She was born yesterday at 11:57 p.m., 2 weeks early. As he's done before, she was having some pains off and on and he left for work yesterday morning. She works from home on Mondays. She told me around 8:30 a.m. she was having contractions 17 minutes apart. The same thing happened not long ago, but then by evening all the pain stopped. I was at work, so I told her to keep me posted. A little later, she said they were 15 minutes apart and she had some other signs it might be actual labor starting. I asked her if she needed somebody there with her. She said wanted me to come with her? I didn't even mean to volunteer myself. She was scared. I didn't even ask why she didn't call him. I left work and went over to his house. Uncomfortable doesn't begin to describe it, but there were obviously more important things going on. He wasn't there. She didn't even contact him. She said she just wanted it to be me and her there. In her words, he hadn't seen her pee or shit herself yet, but I've witnessed all of that stuff already, so she was more comfortable with me there. I really tried to be as nice and supportive as possible. Set the whole thing about her affair, our marriage, everything to the side for a brief time. I don't really know what my purpose was being there, but I think she just needed somebody there so she didn't feel alone. She spent most of the time stretching and doing some sort of yoga labor routine and bouncing on this huge exercise ball. I twiddled my thumbs for the most part and looked through a bunch of his belongings. I was timing the contractions and they were consistent and slowly did get closer together, so I thought it was probably actually going to happen. It wasn't nearly far enough along to go to the hospital yet, and it was getting close to when he'd get home. I was planning how I'd handle that when she called me into the bathroom to ask her if I thought her water broke. It wasn't like in the movies with this huge gush of water. So he got home and I was there. He came into the house and the first thing he asked was, "What are you doing here?" I think he thought something else was going on. "No, you just left and went to work and left her alone when she was scared." He said he was home and he'd be with her until it was time to go to the hospital. He put his hand on my shoulder and said something like, "Thanks, bud, I got it from here and we'll call you when we're on the way to the hospital." He called me bud. I told him I wasn't his fucking buddy and to fuck off. I could tell she wanted me to leave. I'm not sure she really wanted me to leave so much as she was in labor and the tension between the two of us wasn't what she needed, and I knew that. It was his house, so what was I supposed to do? I left and prayed they'd actually call me instead of letting me know the next day that my kid had been born. She texted me a few hours later to say the doctor told her to go to the hospital. At that point I still didn't know if I was going to be waiting outside or what he'd decide was best for his apparent wife and child. I was allowed to be in the room. I didn't force my way in there. She said she wanted me to be there. He was there too. By far the single most awkward experience of my life, and the only reason I was able to excuse it was because she told me she wanted me there and I didn't want to miss the chance to be there when my kid was born and to hold my kid before he did. I can't imagine what the doctors and nurses were thinking. Fucking humiliating. Then the guy tried to police what I could see. I put the baby in there. He's fucking watching and it's like this is still my wife and that's my baby. I chose to stay dignified and I ignored him the entire time. I was there to do whatever she told me to do and my focus wasn't on him, but in any other setting I don't think I would have been able to hold back. The baby came flying out. I mean, as far as labor goes. These are the nurses' words and I trust labor and delivery nurses to know what they're talking about. She tore very bad because the baby came out so fast. The baby is so tiny, barely 6 pounds and only 18 inches, but perfectly healthy. I went home for a short rest, although I really couldn't rest at all. I went back today and of course he was there. Surprisingly, he said he was going to give us some time alone with the baby. Not sure if she had previously asked him to do that when I showed up or not, didn't ask. He even brought us all food back when he returned a few hours later. I wondered if mine might be poisoned, but I tried to be nice. He's still not gone, so I'm wondering how long he'll be around. I just can't let myself do anything that will make her try to keep me away from my daughter now. I don't want them making it difficult for me. I'd prefer not to share her name publicly, but I can confirm it's the name we chose for a daughter years ago. He had no say and he hasn't said anything about the name at all. It kills me to see him holding her though. I eventually left because it was just too much sitting there pretending to be like some bizarre company. I'll know I will get my time with her when he's not around. He's already posting them on his social media. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. I just have to find a way to be the bigger person because I won't let him or their relationship discourage me from being my daughter's dad. I totally get doing anything for your kids now, and if it means having to pretend to get along with him, I will. Relevant comments from OP. It's not about picking me. I just have a hard time not caring about her anymore. The fact that she was carrying my child made it a lot more difficult, otherwise, I could have and would have cut all ties with her. I don't know, I still feel the need to protect her or help her. Hopefully it'll get easier now that she and the baby are two separate people. Honestly, I'm considering doing something pretty stupid. She's getting discharged from the hospital early tomorrow morning. I don't want them to go home with him, so I'm thinking about asking her to come home to our house instead. It's ridiculous and sets us up for disaster. It wouldn't be to be with her. I don't want my newborn baby going home to another man's house. I don't think it's for the baby's sake that I want to stop it. It's for my sake. But it's not like we'd be divorced and living together forever. So we'd live together for some period of time, but eventually we'd go our separate ways, date other people and so on. I can't trust her again. That would probably be worse for our kid in the long run. At least by being in two separate homes in the first place, this will just be the norm for her and she won't have to go through that heartache of being one family splitting into two. I just don't know how I'm going to be able to handle seeing my child going home from the hospital to his house. I'm honestly scared to be present when they're discharged because I'm not sure I can control myself. I caved and I asked her to come home with me when they was discharged from the hospital. I framed it more like, if you don't want to go home with him, you don't have to. I let her know she could come home to our house if she wanted to. She said she can't. Why? Because he's done so much for her. He moved her into his house. They have a whole nursery set up. He loves her. I don't love her anymore after what she did, her words. But he loves her and accepts her even with the baby. She thinks she'll never find anyone who will love her and love our baby too, so she can't risk losing him. I tried to tell her she doesn't owe him anything. Just because he let her move in and there's a nursery there doesn't mean she's indebted to him, especially not when it comes to something this big. She said, I want to, but I just can't. I'm sorry. I left. I told her I couldn't sit there and watch the get into his car and go to his house. As a consolation, I got a, you can come over and see her tomorrow. Great. I know she did this. This is all her doing. But why am I the one feeling like I failed? This wouldn't have happened if I hadn't immediately shut her out. I basically just pushed her to him. OP on the AP posting pictures of the baby online. Today I told him he can't post pictures of her online. He said he was just posting a few pictures to say how proud and happy he was of my wife. It wasn't weird. I said he can post her all he wants, but he can't post the baby. He didn't seem to be taking it seriously, so I told him I know he wishes he'd won this one, but he didn't. She's my kid, not his. If he's genuine about being all buddy-buddy and respecting me as the actual father, he'll respect my request. He said okay, he understood, we'll see.